Hey, how the heck are you? Welcome into AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas. It is day 2 of Big 12 Football Media Days. A pleasure to be with you. We appreciate everybody who is here. A big guest lineup for you today, and it is all brought to you by BladeHQ.com. BladeHQ.com, the best knives from the best knife makers. And guys, I can't say it enough. We really appreciate the folks at Blade HQ hopping on the show, supporting the trip, helping us be here to talk to all these great members of the Big 12. And the lineup is unbelievable. So please go support our friends at BladeHQ.com. Their website is set up to be friendly. It's proprietary. They built it themselves, from the software to the algorithms, the processes, to make it easy for you to shop more than 15,000 of the top blades in the knife business. BladeHQ.com, the best knives from the best knife makers, right here at Big 12 Football Media Days. Kalani, Sitake, and Keaton Slovis will be on the show today. Scott Satterfield from Cincinnati, who I think is one of the most important figures in Big 12 expansion. You know, you look at the Big 12 and you look at the way this league is changing. Scott Satterfield and Cincinnati are going to play a significant role in this group of 4 teams that's coming into the conference. We'll talk to Kalani about it. We have big UCF representation on the show today. Really looking forward to that. And I think, you know, the funny thing is, like, Scott Satterfield will join us here in a minute. And Cincinnati has been one of the most proactive media departments in this entire event. And I've been to a lot of these things, and I can tell you Cincinnati and UCF are really excited to be in this conference, and the pieces that they are putting together, like these one sheets, are incredibly helpful. And you look at the messaging specifically for somebody like Cincinnati that's in such a transition. I think that's really important. The conversation with Kalani Sitake is massive. Like, that's a guy. BYU football has gone through an enormous change over the last 18 months. The coaching staff is different. The players are different. The conference now. You know, it's funny. I was talking to a lot of the staff from BYU over the last 24 hours, and just the idea of being at a conference media days, that's been in the works for 10 years for BYU, who's very different than just about every other one of these programs. The other 3 that are joining, they've all been in conferences. BYU has been an independent. And I think it is just a different way of doing business. And, you know, for me anyways, I think BYU is in a very unique position to really excel from a business standpoint, because I think if you haven't been tuning into the show, or maybe you don't know, I think absolutely one of the themes, as I zoom in a little bit, one of the themes on the show and at Big 12 Media Days here has absolutely been this idea that you have to be up to business acumen. UCF certainly is up to that challenge. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I think when you really take the time and you look at the messaging coming out of this Big 12 Football Media Days, there's no doubt the business of the Big 12, they're absolutely open for business. And I think when you look at UCF, is very interesting, because UCF is already a really successful program on a lot of levels. Their women's teams do very big business, and we're going to talk to Terry Mohajir, the athletic director at UCF, coming up on the show about the money-making process. How does NIL and the transfer portal impact what is going on in the Big 12 and really at UCF? Because UCF, and I know a lot of people take umbrage with me when I say this, UCF is already a major conference program. There's no question about that. The way they recruit, the way they spend their money, the way they invest in facilities, all of those things, UCF is already playing that game. Cincinnati's already playing that game. When you look at the fact that Scott Satterfield's got a job in front of him here, this is a guy who's had wide-ranging success everywhere he's been. And I think Appy State is a really good example of that in Scott Satterfield's career. I don't think there's any question that when you look at Cincinnati and you look at where Scott Satterfield's been, he may be a guy that's uniquely qualified to lead Cincinnati to the promised land in the Big 12. But there's no question that that is a tough hill to climb. When you look at Emory Jones at Cincinnati, he now becomes an incredibly important figure at Cincinnati. And when you look at guys like Dante Corleone at Cincinnati, he's the highest rated defensive player in the country. He is the highest rate. I said the highest rated defensive player in the country is at Cincinnati. And I just don't know that a lot of people know that. I don't know that a lot of people understand that Cincinnati has talent. And I think when you look at Dante or any number of guys at Cincinnati, there's more talent there than people recognize. As Scott Satterfield sits down with us, a lot of people, I think, Coach, believe that you have an uphill climb and the job is too difficult. And you're trying to replace a legend, and there's just no way that's going to happen. Like, do you hear the naysayers? Does that weigh on you at all?
No, in a simple answer, I don't worry about that. I think I've been through this before. When I first got the head job at Appalachian State, I'm following a legend, a true legend, and a 24-year head coach at App State that had one losing season, who's in the College Football Hall of Fame, and you try to follow that. Now that's a lot of pressure at my school that I played at. And we didn't start out too good. We had a couple. Had about 4 or 5 wins in the first year. So, but then after that, we started rolling. I think we go in and we have to do what we know how to do, which is, you have to recruit at a high level, and you have to obviously put a good product on the field. You have to do all the little things necessary to win, taking care of the football. You got to be tough, all those things. You got to train with a chip on your shoulder. I mean, that's what Cincinnati is known for. Coach Fick did an unbelievable job, but so did D'Antonio, so did, Butch Jones, so did Brian Kelly. I mean, there's a lot of guys throughout the years that have done an unbelievable job there. So we got to keep it rolling, you know, and it's going to be obviously new challenges, right? We're going to come into Big 12 with a lot of new teams we have never played. We're going to be going to new venues, new cities, but they're also going to be coming to us, and the thing about Cincinnati is that we have a hotbed of talent within 3 hours of our school, right there in Ohio. So, yeah, we're excited about that. But, I can't listen to any naysayers out there. I mean, they told me I couldn't play football for a long time, too, and I've started 3 years at App State with the Cats. I mean, I've been here my whole life. I don't worry about it.
Apparently you can't recruit in different parts of the country either, because one of the craziest things I've heard is that Scott Satterfield can't go into Cincinnati because he doesn't know the Midwest and he can't recruit in that area. And I think your experience, and I'm glad you brought up Appalachian State, because I think what you accomplished there, you are an accomplished football coach. And I think we all love to take the easy button of they're going to lose. There's no way they can win. It's going to be a long climb, which it's not going to be easy.
No.
But I also think that you have a track record of recruiting. Your work in the transfer portal is speaks for itself. Like I look at a guy like Dante, who's the highest defensive grade in the country. And I wonder if people understand the talent that you guys have on your roster.
I don't really think they do. I really think even when they were making their run a couple years ago, and making their way to the playoffs, I still think everybody doubted them.
Yeah.
And I think that's just part of it. I think, hey, we're going to run with that. Hey, because every day our guys have to prove something. And, media picked us, second to last in the thing. And I brought that up to our team yesterday, and they started, they like it. Okay, they don't know about us, coach, but that's just the way it's going to be. But, if you sit back and everybody listens to all the outsiders, man, nobody will ever accomplish anything, because there's a bunch of negativity everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So you have to stay within your where your feet are, in your weight room, on your field. We train hard. Just put the ball down. Let's go see what happens. We got some talented players. We got some guys that can play. We got some guys that are tough-minded. It's going to come down to a lot of the little things. But, the big difference is going to be week in and week out, the teams we have to play. I mean, we all know that. It's a step up. And so that's going to be the challenge.
Talking to Scott Satterfield from Cincinnati, thanks to our friends at BladeHQ.com. Let me ask you about the talent on your roster, because this is clearly a roster in transition for you. You're going to have to grow. How tough of a task is that? Because I think you have always had talented rosters. So how difficult is it to talent up, if you will, a roster like this?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a little bit of time. We're going to have to, we just got here, and, we had to add 21 transfer guys because guys that left within the transition. And so hopefully next year we don't lose as many guys. You're able to, recruit at a high school level. That's going to be pretty high. Bring a few more transfers in. and then continue that trend over the next couple of years and bringing in the kind of players that's going to help us compete at this level. We know we're going to need to get bigger in the trenches, like week in and week out, and if you lose a couple of starters, how's your depth looking, your twos, your threes that are going to have to play? That's where we got to get better. And it took a little bit of time at App when we made that transition, but then once we got it, man, we were rolling. And so it's going to be the same kind of deal. I mean, I think we're just going to have to, be patient, but work our tails off every single day, which our staff has done a great job.
Real quick, because I know you got to bounce, but Emory Jones, is he your guy? And what about him made him an attractive fit at Cincinnati?
Yeah, I mean, I think for Emory, he's earning his way to be our guy. Not ready to say that yet, but he earns the respect of his teammates. I can tell you that. The thing that we really liked about him, the fact that what he's put on tape, when he was at the University of Florida and Arizona State, I mean, he can run. And he's got a big arm. He can throw the football, and he's got great size. But what I really didn't know until we got to know him was what kind of person he is. He's a great, great person, very humble, cares about his teammates. He's a really good leader. So those are intangibles that you don't really know until you get to know him.
Yeah.
But he's a talented player. And what I also like about him is that he's scarred down. Like, he's had a lot of things happen to him,
Yes.
But once you get scarred down, man, now you're ready to go prove yourself and go show the world what you really can do. And hopefully we're going to send him out on a really high note.
Can you control the ball enough to help your defense on offense?
That's going to be the challenge and what we're going to have to try to do. You know, and if we can do that, then we'll get a chance to get in that fourth quarter, and then who knows what's going to happen in the fourth quarter. Scott
Satterfield, the head coach at Cincinnati, presented by BladeHQ.com. Coach, good luck to you. Thanks so much. There you go. A really good conversation there. And again, I think when you look at the as I try to control my camera there, when you look at the job that Scott Satterfield's got to do, I think it's a real challenge. Emory Jones, I think is one of those guys you want to win the job. You want Emory Jones to win that job. And you heard Satterfield talk about the fact that Emory's got some scars on him. Like, he's been through some stuff. And one of the things I think we've heard consistently, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think one of the things we've heard consistently about the transfer portal with all of these teams in here, but especially the four coming in, you have a lot of guys who've been through things, that are experienced, that have lived a little bit more in this transfer portal. And I think the word maturity is being thrown around a lot with transfer portal guys.
Yeah, and I think these schools share a unique perspective, which is, hey, we've been through all that stuff. So, going into a new conference, into a Power 5 is not going to shake us. It's not going to phase us. And we're uniquely prepared to make the jump. And like for Cincinnati, obviously not being ranked high, not being favored, obviously they're going to take that a little bit personally based on what they've done the last couple of years. And, I think Coach, Satterfield obviously knows the mission, obviously understands, hey, we need to overachieve this year. Even if that's not making the playoff, we need to overachieve and outperform the expectations. Well, and that, to me, is the goal. Well,
and I think if you talk to UCF, certainly BYU with Keaton Slovis,
certainly
Cincinnati with Emory Jones, you look at these teams that have, and I don't want to say they're unsettled at the quarterback position, but even Baylor in this case, you look at these teams that are unsettled at the quarterback position, they've got to find a way to run the ball effectively enough. Like at Cincinnati, getting Dante Corleone on the field, not overexposing him, not overworking him, because he is, again, the highest rated defensive player from Pro Football Focus.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal. But if that guy's overworked, all of a sudden that doesn't mean anything, because he's out of gas, because the offense can't convert on third down, and the defense is going to have more and more trouble as we get into the second half in these games against some really dog teams. You're going to have trouble getting off the field on defense if you're Cincinnati. I think much less at UCF, because I just think Gus Malzahn's done a really good job of now building continuity over these first couple of years. I think UCF might be the most ready team to make this jump. I think Houston's in that conversation, but I think Cincinnati's ability to run the ball and convert on third down, extend drives, I think is so critical for their success. And I think they need Emory Jones to win that job.
Yeah, and I think, again, it's like, hey, you gotta keep your defense off the field as much as possible. Obviously the defense's ability to get off the field on third down is crucial, but as an offense, you can't have, 1 first down, 2 first downs and off the field. I mean, you really need, as you said, to be able to run the football. And where we talked to Josh Salazar for UCF, a defensive lineman. And, he was really confident in that defensive line's ability to get the job done. The only question is the secondary. And obviously, Josh has a lot of confidence in their secondary. But I think that overall, I look at teams like UCF, like Cincinnati, Houston. I think BYU is kind of in their own little thing here with their situation and just coming from independence versus coming from another conference. But those three teams, to me, really, again, I'm not saying that they're going to go out and win the conference. I'm not even saying they're going to be double-digit win teams, but you can't be, 3-9 2 years in a row.
You can't.
You've got to improve on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think you look at Houston with Dana Holgerson at the helm, and I look at Nelson Caesar. That's one of the most impressive conversations. Go back and watch the show yesterday. And we'll upload all the interviews individually when we're done here. But Nelson Caesar's a conversation you need to hear because that kid, Jack Freeman, Nelson Caesar, Patrick Paul were all on the show yesterday. And I just feel so differently about Houston than I did before we got together here.
Sure.
I mean, I just think I think it's remarkable what they've been doing. And I'm telling you, Texas Tech is going to be a handful. I think Texas Tech, and I know we argued about this yesterday, Texas Tech has a chance to win this league. And I know that's crazy and nobody believes me. If Texas Tech comes together and you look at Tech and you look at what Joey McGuire's built there, you have to be impressed. And I think Tyler Shuck, the excuses he's got to perform.
Yeah, there's no excuses now.
There's none. And by the way, it's very much like Blake Shapen. There's no more excuses, right? Like there's a lot of quarterbacks in this league. Whether you look at Will Howard Will Howard's in one of the best spots, I think, in the league as a quarterback. But you look at all of these quarterback battles. You look at all of these returning guys. Keaton Slovis has a ton to prove.
Well, I mean, I think what's really interesting is you look at a guy like Quinn Ewers, obviously Texas.
That's a great example.
Quinn Ewers is a veteran. Quinn Ewers, this is not his first rodeo, yet somehow Texas still has the most to prove in the conference, in my opinion. I mean, again, on paper, the best league in the best team in the Big 12, and yet you still have so much to prove because you haven't won a title in 2009, or since 2009, and you haven't lived up to it if you're Texas.
Yeah, I totally agree. There is no doubt in my mind that Texas Tech. I think whether it is Brooks, Hutchings, Jalen Hutchings is so impressive. So you look at the combination of all these things, and I would just tell you that Texas Tech is going to be a monster.
Mm-hmm.
I think Texas Tech is going to be a monster, and we're hoping to get Joey McGuire on the show. We see him wandering around, but coming up here in 5 minutes. Yeah, absolutely. Coming up here in 5 minutes, Kalani Sitake. We had a great conversation with Kalani last night. And I mean, he is, you guys, when I say that Kalani is not the same coach that we've always known, I've known Kalani since 2013. And, we had a really long, wide-ranging conversation last night. And like I said, we're going to play it for you in 5 minutes. But when you look at the job at hand and you look at the challenge that is facing BYU coming out of independence, not having a conference affiliation, the battle for just respectability over the last, 18 months, all the changes on the coaching staff, you're looking at a guy in Kalani Sitake that this is his dream job. This is his life. And talking to Kalani about that and being able to listen to him articulate just how important and just how meaningful being the head coach at BYU is that conversation with Kalani last night was one of the most powerful conversations I think we've had in some time. And I think that when you look at where BYU is, and I don't know, I could be wrong about this, but I don't know that the garden variety fan understands how monumental, how important this move to the Big 12 is for BYU. I mean, it to me, it's changing your identity. It's the realization I don't want to be too storybook or too dramatic. It's the realization of a decades-long dream of being in the Big 12. And when I say decades long, I mean 70s and 80s and 90s and 2000s and 2010s. And now here you are in 2023. I think we've heard that repeatedly from BYU folks.
Yeah, and I think the folks at BYU, are grateful. Talking to them, I think they're really grateful, but I think they're also really excited. And obviously this conversation with Kalani, Kalani is really excited too, and I think they do have a lot to be excited about. Again, I know BYU fan is like, oh well, it's going to be, it's going to be a long season. We're not gonna be bowl eligible. Like, it's going to be tough sledding, but at the same time, I think that, what happens if you are bowl eligible? I mean, what happens if they find a way to scrap to 6 wins? I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible. It's going to be tough, but I think that's the mission right now. And I think for BYU, you worked your ass off. Tom Holmoe, literally the word that was used was miracles. Right.
Yeah.
Tom Holmoe.
Yeah.
One BYU staffer told us Tom Holmoe worked miracles with scheduling and independence. And I think that's what you have to understand, just how tough the road was. Now, going into the Big 12, does that mean anyone has any sympathy or empathy for them?
No.
Hell no. Hell no. They're going to come in and try to beat your ass every single week. And that's what BYU is going to have to face. But I do think that the excitement and the attitude and perspective of heading into the Big 12 is obviously at the forefront for BYU.
Yep. And if you missed any of our interviews on the show, make sure you get into our playlist. We have a Big 12 Football Media Days playlist. All the interviews will be there. If it is not there, trust me when I say it will be there. But let's take a few minutes and get to some of your comments before we get to Kalani. Sitake, Matt Ritson gives us $2 to say, hi, Monty and Jake. How was the steak dinner last night?
I thought it was outstanding.
Excellent.
Highly recommend Bob's Steak and Chops in Plano.
Yep.
Really, really impressed.
Matt Ritson, I heard 3 presidents from Washington State, Arizona, and Stanford are on his hot seat on campus. Well, I think obviously Washington State with Kirk Schultz, we've all known that. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Bobby Robbins at Arizona, I wouldn't put that.
Yeah, I don't think Bobby's going anywhere, man.
Yeah, I would think not. Let's see who was first in today, by the way. Who was first in on the show today? Let me go all the way back to the stop. Matt Hart, first in. Yes, you were. Well. Jay Chapman, good to see you. Matt Hart says, wow, looking forward to the show today. Yesterday was great. Lots of great interviews. Good job, Jake. Dave Hackett says, day 2 of Big 12 Media Days. Indeed, it was. BYU Patrick, glad to see you got some player interviews in.
Yeah,
wow.
We definitely, I will say that today, day 1 and day 2 have been very different. Day 1 was
very
much
different.
More hustle bustle, a lot happening, almost to the point of chaos in some moments. Day 2 has been much more relaxed. I think, the second wave of schools, if you will, didn't have any issues with their planes. They were all on time. They all kind of knew the schedule.
There's been some hiccups with the players because of these photo shoots.
Right.
So the players have to come dressed in school clothing. So a logoed polo shirt, dress pants. They're asked to change into their full dress uniforms. 15, 20-minute photo shoot per player. Change into a suit, dress attire. 10 more minutes of a photo shoot. Every player here has to go through that. Every coach here has to go through that. And there's been a bottleneck at the photography station upstairs, and there's been some frustration over that.
Just a little bit.
BYU was caught in a bad cycle last night. They were very late. The guys at BYU worked really hard last night. Delivered everybody like they did a great job. So we appreciate that. Let's see. Patrick says the Sikkim 365 coverage yesterday was outstanding with interviews of Yormark and others. I'm sure it was. Renee says, I don't watch 365. Those dudes are boring. Well, they do a good show. They're right across the way from us.
Yeah, there's
those guys
I'm
are
not really interested in doing the, hey, this is better than that.
Yeah,
it's just
we're all here.
Everyone has a unique product, and those guys do a great job.
Yep. Laura Weiss says, hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, Laura. How are you?
Y'alls I have heard over the last 2 days has been incredible.
By the way, are we going to get some Texas Tech on the show today?
They are there's going to be a second wave. So what's going to happen here is everyone's on lunch right now.
Yep.
Then there's going to be a second wave of players, coaches, that are going to come through. Texas Tech is supposed to be on that list, but I have to tell you, the printed schedule is much different than the actual schedule that plays out. So no guarantees on Texas Tech, but I did have a good conversation with their people. So hoping
thoughts and prayers to the paper schedule,
bro.
Right? Because that paper schedule, damn,
seriously,
man. 12:20 in Tarrant County, bruh.
Hey, Tarrant County.
What's up, Tarrant County? Jay Chapman says, "Hey, Monty, did you eat any brisket?" I did not. Jim Choi, Monty played golf, Cowboy Golf Club yet? No, it is. Dude, it is hotter than a witch's butt crack in here. Like, I'm telling you.
In the building, it's nicer.
It's beautiful
today.
It's
much nicer in the building.
Yeah. It is hot in Dallas.
And it is thick out.
And it's funny.
Forward to flying home.
We were talking to all the dudes that are here, like all the football players. I think we've had the most players. By the way, you should be, somebody pat Jake on the back. We've had the most players and most coaches of any show on Radio Row because Jake has really been cracking the whip. Every one of those players, like the UCF guys in particular, because they come from Orlando, where you may know
humidity, bro.
It's humid. What did they all say? Dude, we got off the plane and we thought our shoes were going to melt. It's hot here. And it is hot here.
Yeah, it's really hot.
Texas heat is not Florida heat. Florida humidity is not Texas humidity. It's different.
Yes.
The heat here is very, very different. There is no doubt about that. Let's see. You already look exhausted, Monty. Dude, I got 9 hours of quality sleep last night.
I don't know what the deal is in our hotel room. This is not some like grand hotel room. I have been sleeping my ass off.
Dude, it's awesome. We're in the courtard.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I wish it was closer to the stadium, but you know. Big Lubbock says hit the like button. Yes. A barbecue dinner is a must. We're trying for tonight. Let's see. Patrick Bourne says, yep, saw UCF's great flyer. They're fantastic. They did a really good job. They did a really good job. The Big Lubbock says, how was Bob's? It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was outstanding.
Awesome. Jake on the hunt. Yes, he's after them Cougars. All right, let's see a couple more, and then I want to get to this Kalani interview. Let's see. Lane Tran says, I'm sure everyone who believed in Houston will now, but judge Houston after the UTSA game, dude.
Hey,
and we talked to Houston about that. The UTSA game is nothing to sleep on, dude. Every one of their games, I'm telling you. And I think Dana Holgerson went out of his way on the show yesterday to make this point. Every one of their games counts. And you can lose just as you can win. You can lose every game you play. And I think Dana's been around the block very, very, very many times. Too many times not to know that already. Kevin Peterson says Satterfield is a good hire. He is. I think he's a really good hire. But you have to understand, it's Cincinnati. There is a talent. There is a depletion of talent. Luke Fickell took dudes with him, and other dudes transferred because Luke's not there anymore. So I think it's going to take some time, to staff up. Clinton Moses says his interviews always have been engaging.
Dude, wait till you guys. I don't know if play it today, but wait till you guys see the interview that we did with the AD at UCF. Outstanding interview with Terry.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. Let's see. Cowboy Country. How the heck are you, my friend? I just tweeted you pics of the Cincinnati IPF. It looks really good. The webpage says it will be done by spring 2025. Yep. Big Jack says Bob's is awesome. It is. John Dry says horns down. Aaron Wilson says 2 holes. Go grab Joey. Dude,
Joey's
we're trying.
Lunch. Looks like KState's rolling up though.
Yeah, we're trying. Yeah, KState, the purple ties are out, man. I'm telling you, Will Howard is very impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive. So looking forward to that. But without further ado, do you want me to wait? What do you want? You want to go have a conversation? Go have a conversation.
Yeah, let me see about this real quick.
Mr. Monkey says rock chalk. Well, we tried to rock chalk yesterday, and they were not in the best of spirits. Kansas was not. I think Kansas did like 3 interviews yesterday. It was very interesting. Let's see. Stobnik. Texas get it done in Tuscaloosa. Well, it's certainly one of the marquee matchups on their schedule. And, if you listen to the show yesterday, I'm a big believer in what Sark's got going on in Austin. I think Pete Kwiatkowski's an exceptional defensive mind and a really good coach. And I think they're the most talented team in the country. I don't even know that that's arguable. I think Texas has, if somebody's going to win in Tuscaloosa, I do believe that Texas has a chance. Now, I think Alabama's better this year. That's on paper. We're all looking at paper rosters here, right? But I think there's no question in my mind anyway that if somebody's going to win at Alabama, I don't think there's any doubt that Texas has a good chance. I mean, that game was really close in Austin last year, but I think Alabama's a different football team. I think Texas is a different football team than it was last year. So I can't wait for that game. I'll be honest with you. It's one of the ones early in the year that you have circled is that Texas-Alabama game is one of those games that determines the flow for the rest of the month. That's one of those games where somebody's going to be put on the front foot and somebody's going to be like, oh, God, how are we going to recover from this loss? Because whoever wins that game, I don't think there's any question. There is going to be a minting of excellence either on Texas or Alabama because those are two very good teams. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see exactly how all of that plays out. Now, having said that, I don't know exactly, how you do that. I don't. How are you?
Will Howard.
I don't know. Well, I know who Will Howard is. I mean, are you kidding me?
It's Will Howard. I'm just telling you.
Wait before you sit down. I just want to warn you. One of the best looking quarterbacks in the Big 12 is going to sit down. The dapper Will Howard. How are you, Monty? Nice to meet you. Welcome to the Monty Show. We are live. Thanks to our friends at BladeHQ.com. You can pick up that microphone right there.
Cool. All right.
Dude, people like you. I mean, there's your fan base.
I'm glad.
You're one of the most asked for guys of all of our listeners, and we have a lot of listeners that are Kansas State fans.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Manhattan, Kansas isn't the biggest metropolitan area. Anyway, the point is a lot of people want to hear from you, man. So how's life? How's things at KState?
It's going really well. This year for me obviously has been a lot different than all the years prior. Going into this season actually being the starter rather than coming in as a backup.
Why does that matter?
It obviously when you're the backup, you like to say I'm preparing like I'm the starter. I'm doing everything like I would be playing. But when you really know that it's your team and the offense is going to be tailored to your strengths and everything, your leadership, everything kind of elevates, and it's just a lot more. You play a lot more free. So, were you a scheme fit guy, and that's why we saw this big uptick, or did you train hard? Did you work hard? Are you just simply a better quarterback than you were? I think it was all confidence for me. Coming in my freshman year, I went out there and didn't really know what I was doing yet. I was still kind of feeling my way through things. COVID obviously kind of messed everything up. I didn't have many reps before that season, so I was still kind of floating, just swimming my way through it. And that kind of took a hit to my confidence that year, just the struggles that I had. And, everybody that year told me that the struggles and the hard times I went through was going to help me in the future. And at the time I was like, how much can it really help me? This is, this is bad right now. But in the long run, now looking back at it, I wouldn't trade that time for the world. As hard as it was and as brutal.
Doesn't that define you though? When you go through stuff like that, you either sink or swim, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, but I also think, Coach Klein obviously is and has impacted you. What has that been like working with him?
It's meant the world. Having a guy like him who's been there, who's been out there and understands not only from a coaching perspective, but from a player's perspective, being able to just kind of chop it up with him, understanding, because he knows what it's like to be out there. Obviously you can sit there and talk about X's and O's all day, but when the lights are on and guys are coming at you, happens a little differently. So having his perspective from that way. And then obviously he's just an amazing man and amazing man of faith. And he's a big reason why I came to Kansas State and a big reason why I stayed. When I could have left and could have entered the portal or something like that, I decided to stay and bet on myself because of guys like him and because of my teammates. And he's done so much, and it was so cool to see the success that he had as the OC last year.
Yeah.
And now going into this year, being his second year, He's already got a year under his belt. I'm really excited to see what he's able to do and what we're able to do as an offense.
Well, is it coach, or is it the fact that Cooper Beebe's really good at playing football and
That
he's
helps.
protecting you?
Believe me, that helps. Cooper Beebe is one of the best players in the country, I believe, and definitely in the conference. And not only him, but our whole offensive line's coming back.
Yeah.
We got Ben Sinnott returning at tight end. We got Phillip Brooks. We got Trayshawn Ward.
Can you
DJ
guys
Giddens.
use the tight end more? Can you integrate, can you integrate that route package into your offense more?
Oh yeah. I mean, now that, Sinnott kind of cemented himself as a real receiving threat at tight end, especially the second half of last season, we're definitely trying to get him the ball more and trying to do more things to flex him out, put him in different positions to where he can have mismatches, have opportunities to create one-on-ones for him, because that dude's 6'4", 250 pounds.
Which is, he only had 31 catches last year, which is, and most of that was in the back half of the year. And that's why I say, I feel like all of these things we're talking about, you guys, you had a really good year last year, but I feel like there's a lot more. There's a lot more good year. There's a lot more growth in there.
And that's the thing, is that, last year went really well for what it was, but I only played 6 or 7 games out of the year. And I feel like there's just so much more out there for us. And that's a big reason why a lot of those, why Cooper Beebe stayed, why the whole O-line stayed, why Deuce Green stayed. That's a big reason why everybody came back, because there's more out there for us. And we feel like we're just scratching the surface of what we can do.
But do you have and you're going to say yes, do you have the quality depth at wide receiver? Because obviously there's some change there. I mean, Keegan coming in from Iowa, I think, is going to help you guys a lot. But I mean, do you have what you need at wide receiver to achieve again?
I mean, definitely. I obviously losing Malik and Cade hurts, and those guys are two really, really good players. Cade's an unbelievable cerebral player. I mean, that guy is one of the smartest guys I've ever been around any position in terms of football. But between RJ, between Phil, Keegan, even Ben, I consider like a receiver. Yeah. And Jaden Jackson. We got some other guys, some young guys that are making some splashes and that'll have some really good fall camps. I think we're sitting really good for our receiver room next year.
But do you need to forget about all that success last year? Maybe not forget, but I think it's easy to rest on that. And when you win, is it easy to let down a little bit? Like, how do you push through that?
That's always the debate. People say, how do you stay, not get too high, not get too low. That's what my coaches always harp on. Our strength coach is really big about that. Staying neutral. No matter how good things are going, no matter how bad things are going, you got to stay neutral. You can never get too high, you never get too low, and you just gotta keep putting the work in. And if you do that, then things are going to go well. And you just gotta never let that get to your head. And that's a big thing. Everyone's saying, we're the hunted now. We got the target on our back. But I feel like just us as Kansas State, we are a team that is an underdog. We're a chip on our shoulder.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Yeah.
So that's what we like to kind of cement ourselves as. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys don't never get the respect you've earned.
Yeah.
Frankly. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And before I let you go, I want to talk about 60% completion, because I feel like that's a good number. I feel like you're better than that. Do you see something in your tape that's going to allow you to be a more efficient, effective passer? I
mean, definitely. Looking at last year, me and Coach Klein went through it, and we were both saying it should have been at least 65 plus. And that's just in terms of just missing open receivers, stuff like that I'm trying. Accuracy. My accuracy, I feel like, has gotten way better. Even obviously from the years past to last year, but from last year to this year, I feel like my accuracy, my timing, being able to be that guy and having timing with your receivers makes a big difference. So I'm looking forward to see how much better that can get.
Well, and the number that's impressive, obviously, is you only threw 4 interceptions. I mean, and I wouldn't even put all 4 of those on you, but when I look at those 60% numbers, if you get to 65, that people are like, oh, it's only 5%. Bro, that's a huge jump. Huge. And if you're completing 65% of your passes, how many passes that you already completed go for 3 to 5, maybe 10 more yards?
Yep.
Like those, that's why I ask about that, not because 60 is a bad number.
No, it's a game of inches, and every little percent, every inch that you can gain matters. And 5% in terms of completion percentage is way more than the average fan understands how much that means. Like that,
Yep.
That's a ton, and that makes a huge difference for me.
All right, off the field, real quick. Let's ask. You're suited and booted. You look spectacular. Like, are you a shoe guy? Are you a food guy? Like, what's your grind off the field?
I like movies a lot. I like I'm not a big shoe guy. I'm trying to up my drip game lately, man. My receivers have been getting on me. RJ especially, man. He said he's proud of me. I'm getting there, but I still got a ways to go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One movie you've seen that you loved?
Ooh, Interstellar. It's my favorite movie of all time.
Oh my God!
That unbelievable. I'm looking forward to Oppenheimer.
Yes. Wow.
Yep,
my God. Let's just call you Jake. It's awesome. Hey, dude, stay healthy. Have a great year.
Yes,
really
sir.
appreciate you coming over.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me on.
You bet. There you go. Impressive. Will Howard from K-State. Thanks to our friends at BladeHQ.com, the best knives from the best knife makers. And again, I tell you, they built a website to service you. They built a website that's easy to shop. They built a website that's got over 15,000 knives for you to shop from, whether you're a collector or you're a guy that needs a hunting, a fishing. If you're somebody that needs a foldable knife, if you're somebody that has a utility, BladeHQ.com's got one for you. If you're somebody that's looking for that one-off collector's piece, BladeHQ.com has you covered. And if you're an outdoorsman and you need gear, you need clothing, you name it, they've got it. BladeHQ.com presents our coverage of Big 12 football media days. You want me to go? Okay, let's go. Let's get you Kalani Sitake because, again, I think we talked about this interview. I loved every second of this interview. I think BYU is in a fantastic spot. Let's talk to their head football coach, Kalani Sitake. BYU football. Whoa, now. I think one of the things, obviously, that's very interesting is you're uniquely qualified to go to the Big 12. I think you've been through this with Utah. Obviously, you've been around. You are no new coach. I think we all know that. But how accepting of the challenge are you? Because not that you have another choice, but this is a big deal, man.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm excited. This is not about, you know. And the good thing is that I feel like we have some time to get there, and so the hardest part about being invited to the Big 12 a couple of years ago was keeping the guys focused on the here and now. In 2021, it's like, guys, let's focus on this. 2022 is like, focus on this. Now that it's here, it's like, let's go.
Yeah,
like, this is exciting part of BYU history, you know. Yeah. So the fans are excited. I'm excited. I'm a fan too. So this is a dream come true, and I'm excited. I'm going to lean heavily on the fans to be a competitive advantage for us. But for me, it's not really about my experience, other than it just happens that I've been through this before in a different place, and I know this is different, but there's some things that are very similar. It's not like we're just kind of going in this kind of brand new. This is a really cool thing, and I'll be honest with you. In all the meetings with the Big 12. The coaches, the administrators that I've met, they've been really kind in helping us make that transition. Even with something simple as travels, like this is where most people stay, and they don't have to do that. You know, they don't have to help us out at all. But they've definitely made it an easier transition. It just shows you that the camaraderie and the closeness that this conference has with each other, the teams in this conference, and that they're all about the conference altogether too. So
yeah,
when you look at it, the parity in the conference is unbelievable. That 6 teams in the last 3 years have played for the championship.
Yep. Talking to BYU head coach Kalani Sitake on the Monty Show. Thanks to our friends at BladeHQ.com. How are you? Because I can't imagine, and you know, covering you for a few years, I know that you're an emotional, energetic guy.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot imagine that the last 12 months has been easy with all of your staff changes. And I've taken to calling you courageous because I feel like the changes, Kalani, that you had to make took some courage, because it would have been easy to stand and fight. It would have been easy to say, this is my team or whatever. But how are you, and how has the last year been for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been challenging. I think this profession's challenging, you know, but I love it. I love every minute of it. And there's some times that are harder than others, but I'm still learning. I'm still growing. through this, I'm open to get better, and so hopefully I'm improving as we go along. You know, I know that there's a lot of people that can help teach me and can help me get where I want to be. But the most important thing that I have is I'm responsible to the players on our team, and I have an obligation to the fans as well. So I'm going to do whatever is right by the players on the team and by the fans, and sometimes those don't always go well together, and sometimes they're not aligned. But in this part, it's not easy to make changes, you know. But I appreciate and love all those men and their families that sacrifice for us, and you know, I hope they find a lot of pride and you know, just that they're proud of what we're going to be able to accomplish with the things that they've done in our program. So we would not be able to do all this without them either. So with that being said, the newcomers that are on our staff, there's been a jolt of energy that happens when you go through some changes, but the jolt of energy and the standard has been changed, you know, where especially defensively with Jay Hill there and his staff. And so, you know, we're going into the Big 12. We know there's a sense of urgency to get better at a quicker rate. And I think we're well on our way to do that. How that shows this fall, I don't know, but people are going to predict it. But I feel good about our preparation. I feel good about our team. And I feel good about our ability to get these guys ready to play. So the focus has been on the conference, but I'm thinking about our first opponent, Sam Houston State. And I'm thinking about Southern Utah, and I'm thinking about Arkansas before we even get to the Big 12 conference. But with that being said, man, this has been a lot of fun for me as a coach. I grew up a BYU fan, and so you imagine my road of being a BYU fan, growing up and cheering for all these people that now I get to meet, you know, the legends, like Jim McMahon and even Kyle Whittingham when he played. I remember those days, right? So Tom Homo and these guys I cheered for when they're in the NFL, and Steve Young, and I get to meet all of these guys, Ty Detmer and all these legends. And then I get to coach some other legends like Jamal Williams, and I get to coach Taysom Hill and Fred Warner. It's like, so I went from being a big time fan as a kid to getting to play for Lavelle Edwards, the legend. And I become a captain of his as a fullback that scored 1 touchdown in 50 games. I become a guy that's I'm being taught by Lavelle Edwards. And then I go in my coaching career and I go coach for the rival team for a decade, learn from another guy that played for BYU, Kyle Whittingham, and now I'm back here as the head coach. So whenever I meet BYU fans or I meet people, it's like I gotta be able to just live every moment.
Wait. That wasn't a book or a script you just wrote. That was your life that you were just talking about, right? I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. And so I mean, there's a lot of things that have happened in my life that I don't deserve. My wife being one of them too. And the friends that I've been able to accumulate in my life, and the closest I have with my siblings and my father, you know. So I have a lot of family members that sacrifice for me to get into this place. And it'd be inappropriate for me to look as if this is being really difficult. So I'm going to live every moment of this up. And I joke around about asking Keaton Slovis about the media days because I've never been to any of them. And he's been to more than I have. So I said, hey, dude, what do you think? And he's like, Coach, I know you well enough now to know that this is going to be your kind of party.
Yeah.
So he's right. I enjoy it. I love talking about our team and our you know, my philosophy on football. I love being able to see all the coaches and their players. And I'm a football junkie. I'm a football nerd. So this is a dream come true for me, and I'm living. That's my life. So nobody pinch me. I'm still enjoying it.
Well, you know, Dana Holgerson from Houston sat right where you're sitting right now, and he said the one thing that Mike Leach and Bob Stoops taught him was you have to have an off switch, and you have to turn it off. And you talk about your wife, and family's massive in your life. I understand that. How important is it, and how good are you at turning off football?
I don't know. I don't know if I can just completely turn it off because I think about it and talk about it quite often. I just think that my family's turned on to football, you know. But I really do think it's important that I live in the moment, though. So when I'm going to my son's basketball games or my daughter's dance competitions or my other daughter's basketball, or I'm watching my 11-month-old baby walk for her first time. I think it's important that I'm there for those two. And so I think I know that I can be consumed with thinking about football, but my kids need their dad, and my wife needs her husband. And I may not have been the best at that, but I'm getting better, but I do know that I've enjoyed, as much as I love being the coach, I love being their dad too. And I love being my sibling's brother. I love being a husband. And this is what life's all about,
And you've told me in the past that you value coaches and making sure that the people around you go and do that stuff as well, and that you go and do that. Like I'm not trying to make too much out of the, the BYU lifestyle or the BYU way, but it's not like every other institution. Family, faith, football. Like, I mean, there's a lot that goes into being the head coach there.
I think a lot of places do it differently, but in order for us to work, and it's really nice to have Sunday as a day of rest and to go to church with your family, and it'd be a family day, and for us to know that our players need that too. So I've been really big on expressing to our players that their role of son, continues to go on. Their family still needs them. And usually when a player is struggling with something, I always ask them, when's the last time you talked to mom? And they'll say, oh, it's been a couple weeks. Like, yeah, that's the problem. Like, no, coach, I'm just struggling with the playbook. Like, no, talk to mom more and talk to dad. And you still need to be a son. You still need to be a brother and a friend. Some of our guys are married. You need to be a husband. And you have to have these other roles, and because you can't be just consumed with one role. That's not your identity. Your identity is all the different things that you get to be in life.
Yeah. Let's talk a little BYU football. Obviously, you can't help but be impressed by the person that Kedon Slovis is when he sits down here. He has a presence about him, but he also transferred from USC. He also transferred from Pitt. He clearly has had, the opportunity. What is going to make BYU for Kedon Slovis different than the things that saw him transfer from USC and Pitt?
Yeah, I think the style of offense that we're going to play, and the ability that Aaron Roderick, A-Rod, has and Fessy and the staff to adjust to the skill set of our players, specifically with that quarterback position. So you can imagine we're going to be a little bit different with Kedon that we were with Jaron. And you can see that there's a difference from Jaron to when Zach played.
Certainly.
So A-Rod knows what he's doing, and we're not trying to have and recruit somebody and then fit them into a mold that we already had before. And so what we did with Jaron, what we did with Zach, there's some things that would work with what we do with Kedon, but there's some things that Kedon can do better than what they did, and there's some things that they can do better than him. So A-Rod's the guy that's got to put that all together. From what I saw in spring, I feel really good about it, and it's important for me as a coach, a head coach, to create an environment where Kedon can feel really comfortable in his own skin and feel like he can be elevated as a leader. And you feel like he's got value here, and it can't just be limited to football. And I think what I've seen with him and the transition that he's made, it's like he's always been here. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, you should have just came here after that USC BYU game. You should have just stayed here and be part of our team. But it's I'm excited to have him here, and I've really enjoyed him, and the team has taken to him. But I like his attitude. He didn't come because he was promised a starting spot. He came because he was promised that if he competed, that he could see himself thriving in this environment, and then connecting with our fan base. This guy, he understands it, and I can't wait to see him play. When he's comfortable, I think that people are going to have to watch out. So I'm not trying to make statements or anything, but this guy's a really good player when he's feeling comfortable and when he's feeling good about everything.
Andy has a relationship with Cody that I think I'm a huge believer in Cody Epps. I believe in his talent. I believe in what I saw before the injury last year. And I love the fact that they seem to really like each other a lot. Like, how important is that receiver quarterback connection? Yeah,
it's really important. But I think that what Cody does really well is that everybody will try to emulate that. They'll see that connection that he has with people, and our players like doing that. They don't have they have different personalities than he does, but you can see that it's all the little things that Cody does well. So when you're talking about blocking downfield or being accountable in the off season, that's the stuff that Cody does really well. But we have a lot of guys on our team that do that really well. And then when you talk to Keaton about it, it's like, yeah, this is a cool place to be, where there's a lot of people that see football the same way he does, and he's going into his last year, so there's no room for error anymore. We got to get ready to roll. And I think he feels really comfortable and comforted knowing that these guys are all about ball. You know, our guys are going out and playing golf more than they've done before, and trust me, they're not great golfers, but I actually don't mind it, because I like them being out in on a golf course for 5 hours, not looking at their phone, you know, interacting with each other and seeing each other at your worst, and then talking like, you know, you may not like what's going on the golf course, but then you're going to hit that one shot and you're like, what did I do well there? Yeah. It's just some really cool things that I think you can really connect with, and that tends to show on the football field. And there's definitely got to be a love and a connection on our team outside of football. And I think that's going to be a huge difference maker for us.
Yep. We're live in Dallas with Kalani Sitake. Thanks to our friends at BladeHQ.com. 2 more questions for you. I loved every Wednesday last year we had Harris LaChance on the show, and he talked about the offensive line room, and he talked about Kingsley Suamataia, and he talked about the talent that kid has, and he talks about how excited he was. And now Harris is gone, but Kingsley is still here, and you have some turnover on that offensive line. But it seems like Kingsley's got all of this talent, and he seems like he is a guy that you can really build on. Do we know how good Kingsley Suamataia is yet?
He's the real deal. And so much talent and athleticism in a big body. And I think he's one of the best O-linemen in the country. I like the fact that he's leading the way by example, and that people want to play like him, but he also does the little things right and finishing plays. When he's on the field, it's like that's the best moment of his life. So he loves the game of football. I think there's a lot of things that our players can learn from him, but he's also open to learning from others too. So I really like his attitude and his personality with our team. You know, the guys, none of them are perfect, but they are to me, and I like them connecting with each other. So I think that I'll take all the great athletes, but when they happen to be great people too, that's a really good sign. And he's really big, which really helps. Yeah. Last question. I could not have you on without talking about Max Tooley, because he's another guy who I just love. Can you keep him healthy? And can the entire stadium, led by The Rock, chant Maximus every time that he picks a ball off and takes it back? Because I joke with him, but when he has those plays, it seems like the entire defense rallied in the moment right with him. He gets hurt, and I felt like your defense was different after that. Yeah, and I think the goal going into the offseason especially is to make sure that we had everything lined up for our players to have success, and keep them healthy is a big part of it. Using our sports scientists as a key, and elevating our preparation in the weight room, and also in the conditioning, as well as rehab and everything from the medical part. I think we have to do our best to make sure that they're lined up to have success, and that's availability is the best ability. So we're a much better team when Max is on the field. I love coaching that kid. I mean, I've been a believer of Max Tooley from the beginning. So what he's doing on the field, when he's on the field, doesn't ever surprise me. But we need him on the field often and every play, and that's the goal, because when he's there, he'll make us a much better team. And you haven't, I don't think you've seen the top end yet. I don't know you've got anywhere near it. There's so much potential with a lot of our players, Max being one of them, but there's a lot of guys that can do way more. We need to make sure to put him in the position to have that done, and so he can do a lot of different things. I trust Jay Hill and Justin Enna and the rest of the staff to get things right and make sure that we utilize all our players and our strengths to our best of our ability. Don't ever change.
You always, every time I've ever talked to you, you probably don't remember, but at Utah, we stood on the field in cold weather after practice and just didn't talk about football. But
I remember
the times that we've talked, you just have this energy about you, man, and this way about you, and you're just a good dude. Like I hope people tell you that you're just a really good dude, man.
Man, listen, I just want to be the type of person that I am when I'm around my dad and when I'm around my wife, and I like the person that I am. I mean, I get a lot of enjoyment from just being around and connecting with people, you know.
Yeah.
So I've learned quite a bit from you too. Back in the day, you know, we've been able to talk a lot of different things about life, you know. So those things I cherish, and I just we're in a moment now where people are looking and staring at their phones all the time, and I wish there would be more interaction, more eye-to-eye contact, hugs, and conversations, because I was built off all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, appreciate it.
Good to see you, man.
Love you, brother. Thank you.
Love you too. All right, there you go.
There we go. Great conversation with Kalani Sitake as Monty is out commingling with the crowd. Let me do the awkward headset pass back. Hold on.
I was like, hey, man.
Hello,
Yeah, it's one of the. It is.
Hello.
A, Kalani Sitake is flipping amazing.
He was amazing, yeah.
But B, you know, you see guys that you used to work with. I just saw one of the most influential people who impacted my career, and this guy Tim Parker, and he was a program director of mine way back. I mean, dude, way back.
Yeah.
30 years ago at this point. And he said something to me that I never forgot. You can complain about what's happening, or we can do something and fix it. And this was years ago he said this. And so I just walked up to him and I was saying, hey, I really appreciate the impact you had on me, dude. Like, and I told him that line. And I said, I've never forgotten that. And you took me to Tony Roma's for ribs. It was amazing. in LA, at the old KMPC, he took me to Tony Roma's for ribs. Yeah. And it's, so that's what I love about these events, is you run into people that you haven't seen for years, and they have these impacts on you. And not to get all philosophical, but when you see people in your life who have impacted you, please make sure you say, hey, I don't think you understand, but I want you to know the impact you had on me. And I'm telling you, it makes a huge difference. But anyway, Kalani Sitake was fantastic. I really appreciate him joining the show. It is one of those conversations that you don't often get the opportunity to have. And I think when you look at the fact that there's so many people running around here, I would tell you that it is really important that when you have the opportunity to talk to these people, let's talk about UCF, because obviously, by the way, we're about to go.
Yeah, working the technology.
We're about to go and talk to some UCF football, because I actually think UCF is one of the most important. UCF is one of the most important conversations I think we're going to have today. And Terry, the athletic director at UCF, Terry Mohajir. Terry Mohajir is one of the best athletic directors in the country that nobody knows about. And I want to play this conversation we have with him, because as we've told you, here at Big 12 Media Days, our coverage is presented by BladeHQ.com, the best knives from the best knife makers. These are all really influential people. And right now, I don't know that there's a more impactful or influential athletic director in this conference than Terry Mohajir at Central Florida. I think most of us are really excited to see how much bounce is in the house. I think you guys have one of the best home field advantages in college football. I think the atmosphere is phenomenal. What makes UCF a good fit for the Big 12?
Oh, I just think we bring another dynamic to the footprint of the Big 12. I've got a lot of experience being in the Big 12. I've worked in the Big 12 before. I coached in the Big 8. And so bringing and planting a flag in the middle of the state of Florida, which is a huge resource state, recruiting, eyeballs, our fan base, obviously BYU and Utah, and then us we'll have the two largest living alumni bases. So I mean, I just think it brings in another team in the Eastern time zone. Yeah. Which is great. And obviously you guys are mountain, right? Correct. Mountain time. So I think it's great. And so I think it's mainly just the dynamic of adding to being a national conference.
But I also think the business aspect of the state of Florida, the recruiting pipeline, because the talent that's in the state of Florida. The biggest thing for me with UCF is, how does nobody understand the brand? You guys, I feel like you fly under the radar because all we ever want to talk about is Florida State and Miami and the Gators. But I feel like you guys, it's disrespectful to say you're a sleeping giant. Truly, I believe that. You guys are a phenomenal program that I just think not enough people know about.
Well, listen, we are the big school. We've always been the big school. People talk about, the other three schools that are in the Autonomy 5 conferences. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, those are also good schools. But I mean, and people in national media, people have said, what's it like to be a big school? I said, what do you mean? We already are a big school. We have longer lines at our Chick-fil-A's on campus than some schools have in all their enrollment. So what do you, I mean, I'm just like, what are you talking about? We're huge. So, I don't think in the state of Florida we really fly under the radar screen. I think we're awake. We're not going back to sleep. Yeah. And maybe you might have some other teams or other schools in the state that say we're not part of the big three. We are. We're part of the big four.
Yeah, absolutely. Terry Mohajir, the athletic director at UCF, joins us on the Monty Show, presented by BladeHQ.com. One of the other things I think is so interesting is I believe you were on campus 7 minutes before you hired Gus Malzahn. Why was
I don't know about 7, but it was like, hey, it's nice to have you as our AD. Gotta go get a football coach. Yeah, that's 100% right. Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be challenging. But how did you land on Gus?
I tried to talk to the administration. So maybe we should just hire an interim for a year. No, we need to hire a coach. It was February. Don't forget. And, it was, I worked with Gus before. We won a conference championship together. And, listen, I know his abilities. Mm-hmm. I love his offense. You got to run the ball to be successful. Yep. And everybody, talk about air raid and all that kind of stuff. Listen, you look at in this building, I saw the very first national championship in this building. Ohio State won it. They ran the ball. Yeah. Every team that runs the ball wins, and successfully runs the ball, I should say. And so, I love this. Obviously, he's the guy that invented hurry-up offense. But more importantly, his ability to recruit is recruiting in the SEC is different. Yeah. It's just different. And it's just crazy what you have to navigate through, and being able to kind of read the tea leaves with athletes and coaches and the high school coaches and all that stuff. He's had that experience, and he's recruited Florida, and he's recruited the southeast part of the United States. And right now he's doing a killer job. And I think you touch on recruiting there, but if you look at Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, UCF, I feel like you guys, with all due respect to your compadres there, I think you guys are in this unique situation where you're already winning. You're already running. You're not walking, trying to sprint. Yeah. Like, I feel like you guys are rolling already. What is good about the business of UCF athletics? When you say the business, you talking about the revenues,
revenue generation, the whole
we're
pie.
Already doing that. I think we're kind of maxing out now because we're sold out of our season tickets, and so we're trying to find new avenues, and I think that's why we align with Brett Yormark's philosophy so much. Is we're trying to be as innovative as possible. Yeah, we're trying to turn over every rock. We kiss a lot of frogs to try to find our prince, and it's just one of those things where we are. I mean, that's my background is external. I was a coach for a while, but then I moved into the external aspects. So, trying to create new IP is always a really important thing. But, with our size, being one of the biggest universities in the country, people know who we are. Yeah. And I think we can do a better job of telling our story. I think people in Orlando know. But I think nationally, as we continue to emerge as a national brand, I think the people will see the eyeballs and see who we are, and will learn a little bit more about us. And this footprint, I mean, BYU is a great national brand. Yes. But you may not have really, except for when they played in bowl games and stuff like that,
Yep.
never really have. Really
Well, and they have the
fought
church behind them. I mean, it's a whole different dynamic. Yeah,
right. And so, and so I think, our living alumni with besides BYU being 450 living alumni, I think we're second. Once Texas leaves, we'll be second to BYU.
Well, and I think your alumni turn on the TV. I think your alumni go to football games. They go to basketball games, which is where I want to go next. Because I think obviously in this conference, the Big 12, football is a revenue stream. I mean, we've heard football, but that was my point.
Yeah.
Basketball now clearly is a revenue stream in this conference, and you're hearing about commercial divisions and whatnot. At UCF, how much of a money-making operation do you guys have for things like branding, partnerships, advertising, sales?
We have a multimedia rights partnership that we've contracted with, which is doing a really good job. Our biggest upside right now is we've got all that. We got naming rights. We do it all. We did all that in house. Since I've been there, we named the stadium, we named our arena. We just renewed our contract with our arena, and and then our biggest upside really is basketball.
Yeah.
Men's basketball, really, and women's basketball. Our volleyball, we have a separate facility for volleyball. No, it's real big in BYU too. Yeah. And so our arena is really nice. Our arena will be as good as any arena in the Big 12. I mean, I've worked with Kansas. I worked at Kansas, so I oversaw the external area.
Are they any good at basketball?
Well, they know how to generate revenue. Basketball. You know how they do it? They roll out the ball.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
They roll out the ball and they throw and they do jump, and that's how they generate a lot of revenue. And so we got some work to do in men's basketball, but I think that's our biggest upside because we're pretty capped out in football.
Yeah.
We're sold out of our season tickets. We've already sold out of 3 of our home games this year. We got 6. We got Kent State, Houston, and Villanova left to sell out.
Yeah.
And I think those will be sellouts. But we're maximizing. We're using every piece of real estate we have to create IP and to maximize our revenue opportunities.
And real quick before I ask about NIL, I do want to ask you about women's sports because I think, again, whether, you look at BYU, but in the state of Utah, you look at the success that the University of Utah is having across the board in women's sports. Like, how important and how much priority do you put on the success of your women's programs?
Our women's sports were what I took care of first when I got there, meaning we really emphasized and resourced our women's sports. As a result, since I've been there, we've won 3 conference championships in volleyball. We won 1 conference championship in soccer. We've won 2 conference championships in softball. We've won a conference championships in rowing, and then track and field. We've won 4 conference championships. Our women's sports are awesome.
Yeah,
I'd say our ladies are badasses. They really are.
And I think it's important because as an athletic director, I know we talk about football all the time.
Women's basketball, we won a conference championship too.
Sure.
So,
but I think that's important because alumni base growing.
Tennis, we won a conference championship too. Sorry. So we won conference championships in about.
Let's talk golf, man.
I mean, we won. Sorry. I apologize. I apologize for that, but I don't want to leave anybody out.
Man. No, I got you.
So anyway, but yeah, our women's sports are better than our men's sports right now.
Yeah.
So
and that's huge, man.
So I would say we won the most conference championships in the American.
Yeah.
In the time that we were there.
Yeah.
And 75% of those conference championships were won by our women's sports. So
you do pretty well.
Pretty damn good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Terry Mohajir, the athletic director at UCF, joins us on the Monty Show presented by BladeHQ.com. NIL. Obviously, I mean, I think Florida is a recruiting hotbed. There's so much talent there. Everybody goes to Florida to recruit. How has NIL impacted UCF, and do you guys have a process? Do you guys how does it impact you guys?
We have a collective called the Kingdom.
Yeah.
And they're raising money. They're out there raising money. They're crowdsourcing. They're going to individual donors. And it's a challenge just like anybody else across the country. You got to build your funds. Yep. And you got to create contracts with student athletes, and that's what they're doing. I mean, it's just like any other place in the country. It's but it's a process.
In a political,
we promote it.
But in a political state like Florida, and in the climate we're in this country, where we're talking about regulation with NIL, does NIL need regulation? Does NIL need the federal level and the state level?
100% it needs regulation. Absolutely.
And why?
Because there's a lot of fool's gold out there. I'm from Kansas, so I always talk about a lot of people trying to follow the yellow brick road.
Sure.
And they always think they're going to get to the wizard. Or the wizard, they find out when they pull the curtains behind, the wizard's not real.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that believe that they're getting things they're not. Mixed in with the transfer portal and NIL, you have kids entering in the transfer portal that had scholarships. They're getting their education paid for because they think that the yellow brick road, there's a wizard at the end of the road that they're going to get this big money, and they're not. And so now you have a bunch of kids that are in the transfer portal that have no place to go, as they say in the Officer and Gentleman.
Yeah.
I've got no place to go, and that's not what we're here to do. So do I think we need regulation? Yeah, because we are in the education business first and foremost, and in the competition business second.
But are you anymore, though?
Yes, 100%.
Have we lost focus on that?
No, I haven't.
But has especially in football, I feel like sometimes we talk too much about football and not enough about education. I mean, the National Football Foundation just sat here for 20 minutes talking about their initiatives to make sure the kids get educated.
Because it's true.
Yeah.
Because only 1% of our athletes are playing pro ball.
Yeah.
They have to get an education.
Yeah.
They're going to school. We have a 100% job placement program in our school. They're the only school in America that does it. We put our money where our mouth is. We live our core principles, and we constantly challenge our own core principles so they remain relevant.
Right.
We guarantee every one of our student athletes, if they finish their eligibility at our place, that we're going to guarantee them a job or grad school placement.
Wow, that's powerful.
Oh, yeah, it is powerful. So education is, so when people say it's not listen, besides the GI Bill, there's never been a scholarship program in the United States of America that's benefited the youth of America like intercollegiate athletics, period.
But why have we lost that focus?
Well, we've not lost it. I think what happens, the narrative gets carried away by we don't talk. Number one, the practitioners, we as practitioners, first should take some ownership. We don't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
I think our previous leadership of the NCAA didn't talk about it enough.
I would agree.
And I think what happens is some of the narrative gets hijacked by the national media. Yeah. And it's not pushed back on like I am right now. I'm pushing back on, not because I'm pushing back on you. No. I'm just pushing back on the fact that it's still first and foremost. We seriously think about how we educate our kids every single day. Yeah. Academics, resources, classes, study abroad, all that kind of stuff. We're looking at that stuff, but no one talks about that because the narrative has been hijacked by transfer portal and NIL. Yeah. Well,
and think about the student debt right now that so many kids face.
That's right.
And you're playing football or basketball or whatever sport it might be
with no debt.
That's amazing.
And so it's amazing. Exactly.
Yeah,
amazing.
Terry.
Thank you.
I appreciate it,
Yeah,
man. Let's not be strangers.
Okay,
I enjoy talking to you.
Welcome everybody from where are you located in?
Salt Lake City.
Okay, Salt Lake. Listen, we're excited to host as many BYU fans that want to come to our games this year, and obviously Cougar Nation from around the world. We're excited to host them in Orlando this year.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. And there you go. Thanks to our friends at UCF for setting that up. Thanks to everybody at BladeHQ.com. The best knives from the best knife makers. BladeHQ.com presents all of our coverage of Big 12 football media days here in Arlington. I see everybody saying, stop saying Dallas, bro. Dude, it's Dallas. Okay. Tarrant County, bro. A pleasure to be in Arlington at AT&T Stadium as we bring you full coverage of Big 12 Football Media Day. Thanks so much for joining the show live. I see everybody out here. Elaine Tran, John Dry, Patrick Bourne, of course, is always here. We are waiting on Texas Tech. Should be able to get you guys Jalen Hutchings coming up. And I'll tell you what, the D-line at Texas Tech is going to be unbelievable again. Hutchings and Bradford, 82 tackles, 7 sacks. You have 6 returners on a defense that got you 31 sacks, 9th in FBS and red zone defense. Like, this defense is absolutely legit. And again, we're going to sit here and talk about the impact that the quarterback has at Texas Tech. Tyler Shough is a guy that, if he's healthy and if that's a guy that, if he's ready to go and rocking and rolling, I will sit here until I guess I can't say blue in the face, red in the face, and tell you that I'm a firm believer that Texas Tech has a great shot to win this league. And I know that everybody wants to talk about Texas and Oklahoma, and I totally understand that. But I think when you look at this defense and you look at the development in another year, because let's not forget this, a 5th-year guy, if Tyler Shough is healthy, they're going to be very good. There's no doubt about that. The O-line's got to improve. I don't think there's any question that all of us, that watch Texas Tech on a regular basis, the O-line's got to improve. You have to, in my opinion, you have to get more out of every position on offense, because that's what this is. That's what this is going to come down to. You're 8-5 last year. Do you want to be 10-3? If you want to be 10-3, let's get more consistent on the offensive line. You're putting up 461 yards a game, 34 points per game. But how are you losing 5 games? Because you've got to be more consistent. So I think Tech's got a great chance. But by the way, real quick on UCF, I'll just sit here and tell you that I think UCF is not going to get the respect that they deserve. The Bounce House is going to be rocking. And that place literally, I see a lot of people over the last couple of days asking about the Bounce House. It's the Bounce House because when they start jumping, that place bounces. And I think it's Orlando. I think it's the heat and humidity in Florida. I think it's going to be unbelievable. I think UCF has a really good chance of coming and compete now. Everybody picking, UCF to be 9-10, below 9th, 8th. I think you're crazy. I think Gus Malzahn has that program ready to go. They spend the money that needs to be spent, and you look at all of the things that Terry Mohajir's done there. The money he spent, the investment they've made on facilities, bringing in Gus Malzahn. And I joked with him during the interview, but he was there a very short amount of time, weeks, I believe, is the truth, where they said, okay, got to hire a football coach. And so obviously with Terry Mohajir and Gus Malzahn having a relationship, he went right to Gus. Gus came in and they haven't missed a beat. So don't sleep on UCF. Don't sleep on their schedule. They've got big games. I expect UCF to win every single one of their home games. And if you look at their schedule and you start to understand that UCF, they've got some tough road games. KState and Boise State, Kansas, Oklahoma, Cincinnati. Those are tough places. But Okie State, West Virginia, Baylor coming in. I mean, those are all games that you would expect. Yep, UCF to win. Let's switch gears and get you to some Texas Tech. All of our fans in Lubbock are super excited, to have you guys on the show. And the thing that I ask you about your offense, Jaron, is that you guys, there's no question you guys put up numbers. There's no question that you guys light the world on fire. But you can't lose 5 games with the numbers that you guys put up last year. So what should we expect out of this offense this year?
I feel like people should expect a lot of scoring, a lot of points. Honestly, our slogan is 50 burger. We want to put up 50 points, 50 points. And I feel like we're going to be fast-paced offense, honestly. I'm excited. Yeah,
what have you seen from Tyler Shuck? I mean, obviously, everybody talks about him, and justifiably so, but have you seen growth? Have you seen improvement? This is the 5th-year guy. This is a guy that's got experience. What have you seen from him so far in spring and summer?
I've seen a lot of his leadership role grow. He's been doing a lot better than before. Honestly, just everything about him has changed. His whole approach has been way different, and he's super excited for this year, like we all are. And I feel like he's going to show the world what he's capable of.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's what it takes. When you're a quarterback at a place like Texas Tech, there are expectations, dude. Like, you guys score points. You got to play well. I mean, how do you guys internally talk about that stuff? Do you talk about expectations? Are you that program that shuts it out?
We shut it out, honestly. We work hard every day, and I feel like none of the expectations, none of that matters, because we just work so hard. We know what we have to do and what we're capable of, honestly.
Well, and I think what you guys are capable of, speaking of the hype that you try to shut out that I'm about to drop on you, I think you guys are capable of winning this conference. I think that people want to call you guys an underdog, or that would be a surprise, but I think that's the normal ascension. I think that's the normal projection for you guys.
We believe that every day we work out. In anything we do, we believe that we can get to the Big 12 championship and win it. Honestly, we work so hard. I feel like we're gonna show the world that we can do it, and I'm excited.
By the way, is your defensive line any good? You have a couple of bros, 82 tackles and 7 sacks.
Oh yeah, they're pretty good. Those 2 guys, those are leaders of the D line, and I feel like we have one of the best, if not the best, D lines in the country, and I'm excited. Like as a whole, the defense is. I feel like they're one of the best too.
Yeah, and I mean, I think everybody talks about replacing Tyree Wilson. I think that sells short the guys that are here.
Yeah.
Because if you, I mean, again, those two guys account for 82 tackles and 7 sacks.
Yeah.
That's production, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's it like going against a defense that's 9th in FBS in the red zone?
Yeah. It's crazy. Like practice is always pretty crazy. There's a lot of competition, but it's fun because it makes the games easier, you know. So we love competing with them every day.
So we've got what are you rocking there on your feet? You've got the loafers,
Gucci loafers.
Oh, I'm sorry, he said Gucci loafers. We got the ice on the wrist. Like we're looking suited and booted. What is your jam off the field, man?
Just a little bit. I'm trying not to be too flashy. I try not to show too much, like not all like the chains and stuff, but I try to show just a little bit, nothing too crazy, you know. But off the field, I mean, I like to dress up a little bit. I haven't gotten into like the designer like that, but just a little bit. I'm just scratching the surface, you know.
Now you're an Under Armour school, obviously.
Yeah.
So does that mean you're not a Jordan guy? Like you would never wear?
Yeah, I love the Jordans. You know, I love the Jordans, but at school, I'm straight sandals.
Yeah,
slides, easy slides, if anything, but I'm straight Jordans off the field, though.
Love it, man. Jaron Bradley, appreciate you coming on the show, man. Have a great season.
Thank
Stay
you,
healthy.
Yes, sir.
There you go, wrecking them. I'm telling you, Texas Tech, you guys, is absolutely going to be legit. And I think he's a guy that's going to play a big role. And I think you're looking at a situation where it's going to be awfully difficult, I think, as come on, man. You got to have clean pants. Like, what are we doing here? What's up, man? How are you?
Doing well. How are you doing?
I'm all right. It's interesting. We were just talking about your defense.
Okay.
Can you guys stop anybody? Is your defense any good at all? Or
I hope so. I think our defense made a lot of improvements over the years, but definitely last year we took a big step. So.
Yeah, I think when you look at you and Bradford, 82 tackles, 7 sacks, there's a lot of expectations there. I mean, do you embrace that leadership role? Do you embrace that level of performance?
I mean, I do. I feel like I've been here for a long time, right? And that just comes with experience and just realizing that it takes preparation, right? You can't just walk into a season and expect things to happen. So just understand that even though we get all the hype right now, and I mean, which is good for the program, right? But we have to live up to it and do better. So just understand that it's still going to take work.
But I also think we're talking too much. I say we. I think the media and the previews are talking far too much about Tyree Wilson because you guys have, with all due respect, I mean, he was a fantastic performer, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But I think you guys you don't have to worry about replacing him. I think you guys just have to worry about doing your job because I think you're talented across the board.
I agree. I feel like we said before, Tyree is a phenomenal person, a phenomenal athlete. He will always be engraved in Texas Tech history, right? But I feel like the guys that are upcoming, like we have Steve Linton, which is a transfer from Syracuse.
Yep.
And he's a guy that really has a phenomenal first step. He's really quick off the ball. And on the other side of the line, we have Miles Cole, which is about the same size as Tyree, and is really strong and physical. So, I mean, even though he's gone, we still have pieces in place to still be a very good defense.
Yeah, and I think you guys, how do you feel about your red zone production going forward? I mean, obviously, you guys were very highly rated. I feel like you guys played well. You're 9th in FBS and red zone defense.
Right.
Like, do you feel like you can still play at that level? Can you get better in the red zone? Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I feel like there's always room for improvement. But Coach DeRuiter has always made it a key emphasis of a red zone defense and like how we cannot let them score. If they kick a field goal, a win for us, right?
Yeah.
Just by Coach DeRuiter making an emphasis, really just when it happens, like bend don't break kind of mentality, right? Even though when it happens, you have to put the fire out, right, and then just bow your necks and get a stop.
Yep. Jalen Hutchings from Texas Tech is our guest on the Monty Show. Thanks to our friends at BladeHQ.com. So this conference is changing right before your eyes. I mean, obviously, I believe, and we've talked about this a lot, and I'm curious your thoughts. I believe the Big 12 owns Texas. I think the state of Texas, and obviously Texas and Oklahoma going out. In your time in this conference, are you excited for what this conference is becoming with, BYU Houston coming in, UCF Cincinnati? Like, are you excited about what's going on in the conference? And do you feel like this is good overall for Texas Tech?
I do. I feel like, the brand that the Big 12 is trying to build and has built is definitely a competitive one. Sometimes people get the SEC and the Big 10 as a conference that's the premium conference, but the Big 12 is a tier lower than them. But that's simply not true. The Big 12 has always put a very competitive brand on the field, and I feel like adding the 4 new teams is going to add to that brand. So I'm really happy that all the 4 new teams are here, and I think it's going to, like I said before, add to the brand that the Big 12 already has.
Is the expectation for you guys, because I'm a buyer, I believe in you guys. My expectation is that you guys should compete for the conference championship. I think you're that good. Is that, and of course you're going to say yes, but is that a realistic expectation? You see this offense every single day. Obviously, the defense.
Right.
Do you feel like that's a realistic expectation?
I do. I've been telling everyone, I feel like the way we ended last season, like coming off a 4 or 5 game winning streak, and then the way we played in the bowl game, it just propelled us into the offseason with the confidence. Like, we can, like, Texas Tech hasn't had an 8-5 record, I don't know how long, right? Or better than that. So just a constant improvement. And then we talk about how, like in our weight room, we have the scores of TCU and KState from last year and how we didn't finish the game. We were right there, but we didn't finish it, right? Yeah. And that's 2 games that would have made us 9-3. So, I mean, we're really close, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of us believing in each other and not getting complacent and really not buying into like the pass on the back and stuff like that.
But you left some meat on the bone, dude. I'm glad you said that because I do feel like you guys left a lot behind last year. Like, do you see the small tweaks? Because I don't think it's some huge gap between you guys. Right. Do you see the small tweaks? Do you see those things improving?
Yeah, I do. I feel like, I mean, obviously, like with Tyree Wilson leaving and everything, there's guys that have the opportunity to step up and really make a name for themselves. So, I mean, it's all about opportunity and what you make of your opportunity that you get.
Okay, so we got to talk about the shoe game in Lubbock because you guys, I mean, your guy had on Gucci loafers. You've got on like the super softs. Like
they're comfortable.
They are comfortable. I trust me. I wear a size 15. I know comfortable shoes, man. But I'm a Jordan guy, and I understand like you got the Under Armour logo there. But what's your shoe game like?
I mean, I'm a chill guy. I prefer more comfort than anything.
Okay.
I'm the type of guy that wears some comfortable Nikes, some comfortable just slides. Just I'm chill. I'm not really big on.
So everybody at Texas Tech is a slide guy, apparently. Yeah, you guys all chilling in slides. Mm-hmm. Okay, so off the field, are you a Netflix guy? Are you a food guy? Are you a stay-home guy?
Yeah, I'm a big guy that likes to go to the movies. I love going to the movies.
Nice.
Any type of movie with a scary movie like
best movie you've ever seen, like your favorite movie all time.
I've been telling everybody Avengers Endgame.
Really?
I'm a big Marvel guy. My dad back home, we always went to go see Marvel movies, superhero movies. Might be lame to some people. But
no,
I'm a big Marvel guy.
No, that's all good. Well, hey man, congratulations on your success.
Yes, sir.
Go get paid. Enjoy the season. Please stay healthy, and we look forward to watching you perform.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
There you go. I appreciate you, Jalen Hutchings, right there from Texas Tech. Man, I told you the hype is real, and again, I know that I probably tend to over hype guys, but I'm telling you, that dude is legit. That dude is real. Texas Tech is real. And I know that a lot of people want to downplay Texas Tech. I am telling you, I am promising you, that team left meat on the bone. That's exactly why I asked him that question. This defense, as good as I think they were, this defense has room to grow. This defense has room to perform at a higher level, and you just feel like if Texas Tech, it's not a lot. It's not spans. If they can clean up those little details, those moments, that critical third down, you know what? Like, hey, don't miss that sack. Finish that sack, right? If you're able to finish, if you're able to close, and I think Texas Tech is, and I know again, Tyree Wilson. Dude, Tyree Wilson is a loss. There's no way to shape that, but they have enough talent. And Joey McGuire, the only question I didn't get to ask him that I wish I would have. Joey McGuire is a guy that can make you believe. He's a guy that, man, he'll capture your imagination. He'll tell you that story, and you're going to buy that story. And I think that's a big part of football, because if you have a group of guys, especially with like the Techs of the world, the UCFs of the world, certainly Houston falls into that category. If you have a coach and you have a group of guys in the room who don't buy what the coach is selling, you're going to miss sacks. You're going to miss assignments. You're not going to be detail-oriented. You are not going to be in your playbook or on your iPad at the end of the night when you should be. And maybe that Saturday afternoon, you're going to miss an assignment because you weren't, because you're not buying what's being sold. You can tell that Texas Tech, I actually believe Baylor, I think Baylor is in. Dude, I think they have bought into Dave Aranda. I think they have bought into Grimy. I think you look at the K-State guys. K-State, Will Howard is bought in.
Yeah.
I think you talk to certain schools and you talk to certain players. I think Blake Shapen has the room.
I was going to say Blake Shapen definitely has the respect of his constituents, if you will, and I think that he's we talked to him. I mean, he's a confident guy. There is no question about it. Obviously, being a quarterback, you would expect a certain level of confidence, but he just seems to have this sort of, again, the word is confidence about him, and he feels
presence.
Like he can, presence.
He's got a presence.
Like he really, my takeaway from our conversation with him is he really felt like there was a lot of improvement that could take place, as well as Will Howard. Will Howard shared the same thing. Obviously, if you missed that interview today, we did that one live. Will Howard felt like, hey, we watched tape, and I could have easily been 65% plus for a completion percentage, and I was only at 60. So I think there are a lot of schools and really a lot of quarterbacks in this conference that feel like, hey, there was a lot of room for improvement that I just, I didn't capitalize on last season, and I'm going to be looking to do that.
Certainly, and I think when you start to look at the way that certain guys perform on this stage, and you start to understand, some of the conversations that you've heard today, and I think you look at BYU yesterday, Keaton Slovis, for a guy that there's a lot of questions about his effectiveness at SC and Pitt. Keaton Slovis has a really good presence about him.
Yeah,
I already told you I think Cody Epps is an NFL wide receiver. I think you look at talking to Corey Black from Oklahoma State yesterday. I think he was a guy that didn't strike me as somebody that felt like they own that defense and they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Like, I worry about Oklahoma State. I think if the Pokes they're going to have to prove it, right? But then you look at Texas yesterday and Jahdae Barron, my God,
dude.
Like that,
dude's a stud. There's no way around it. If we uploaded that one yet? I think we have that uploaded on the channel. That is a must-see interview. The guy is just different. He's got NFL written all over him. Really talented, really smart guy. I mean, talking about taking candy from a baby because he knows what play's coming. Like,
he's prepared.
Incredible.
Yeah,
incredible.
And I also think one of the things that really stood out about Blake Shapen. I'm glad you said that. Preparedness. Blake Shapen seems like a more ready quarterback. Blake Shapen seems like a guy that there are no excuses. If you're a Baylor fan, listen, man. If you're a Baylor fan, there are no excuses. He is your guy or he's not.
Yep.
You are going to win and lose. Yeah, you're exactly right. You're going to win or lose with Blake Shapen, and I don't know how you get away from that. And I understand there are questions about him, but he is. I think he even admitted, to us that he is much more ready. He is prepared. He is dialed in. There are chemistry. I think they had real cultural issues on that team last year. And I think they have addressed those issues both in the coaching staff and on the roster. I think I would really be surprised if Baylor didn't bounce back.
Completely agree. 100%. I mean, I just think it's again, when you get to talk to these guys like this in this kind of a setting, I mean, obviously, that there's a certain answer you're going to get for a certain type of question, but there's also the things that you can feel that really aren't spoken. And again, with Blake Shapen, not that I'm some Baylor fan or apologist, but Blake just feels ready. Blake feels like a guy that wants to get back out on the gridiron and get it done. And I think he understands, hey, last year we fell short. There's no doubt about it that Baylor disappointed last year. And I think they all know that.
Yes.
And I think Blake understands that he shares a probably bigger piece of the pie than, a lot of his teammates do. So I think he's well aware of that.
And I also think, by the way, talking to Drake Dabney, that one of the things that came through there is I think there's a higher level of accountability amongst the players in Waco. I think they know they own a lot of the responsibility for what happened. I think Blake Shapen might be the best example of this. Yeah. I think they know that they own a large amount of the responsibility for the failings of the Baylor Bears last year. and changes were inevitable. But you listen to a guy like Drake talk, or talking to Mike Smith about that defense, like
Yes.
they know. They know. So, I mean, listen, they're not UCF, because I think UCF is coming for scalps, dude. Like, I think
Yeah.
UCF, I think talking to Nelson Caesar from Houston yesterday,
Yeah.
that's a dude who just does not care.
Mm-hmm.
That's a guy, in my opinion anyway, Nelson Caesar's a guy who is tired of hearing about they're not ready. Those are guys like you look at what Patrick Paul said yesterday. He knows he's probably the best offensive tackle in the country.
Yeah, you want to talk about a guy with a presence? I mean, dude walks up and is just this massive human being and knows he's one of the best. And
yeah.
Again, when I am watching these interviews, I'm taking notice. Like, some guys are very clearly NFL talent, ready to go right now, looking to have a big year, and other guys are earlier in their process. And I do think the boys from Houston are late in the process. They are ready to go.
Yes,
looking
they
to
are.
make a big impact. And guys like Patrick Paul understand that, hey, I have to have a big season for my teammates to be put in a position to do well. And again, in these conversations and in these interviews that you're going to see here, like, understand that like UCF not going to win the conference, right? Houston's probably not going to win the conference, but that's not really the conversation for most of these teams. The conversation is more, hey, like with Baylor and Blake Shapen, hey, we disappointed. We got to improve on that. I mean, we got to compete. There's no reason why Baylor shouldn't be top quarter of the conference.
If you're West Virginia and Iowa State, you're going to have a tough time winning games. And I really hope we get Matt Campbell today. I really hope we get Jalen Noel today, because I think they're going to have I think Iowa State, West Virginia. I'm more of a skeptic on Oklahoma than most people are, even though I think Dylan Gabriel is a flipping amazing quarterback. I just can't believe that you can bring that many dudes in on defense and have chemistry.
Yeah, I mean, the portal is
in such a compressed time.
Yeah, I mean, it's unrealistic to think that, when you bring all these guys in and you're putting things together, that you're going to have the same kind of chemistry as, a TCU, or, looking around like Oklahoma State, another team that brought in a ton of players. Like, BYU is a team, obviously, that has some guys coming back. So, I mean, again, in the Kalani conversation, asked him about Harris LeChance moving out, and, Kingsley Suamataia being in, and, is Kingsley good enough? Like, I think those are questions that are plentiful around these rosters, because the portal is so prolific in college football now. And I think that, again, the teams that are returning a bunch of players are probably going to be top cut in the Big 12. And that's why I think in BYU land, a lot of people think that they're being really underestimated, because they do have a lot of returning guys. So we'll see what they can do.
Good luck trying to run on Texas Tech, dude. Like, just watching these dudes walk around the floor here at AT&T State, like, they are
units.
Fucking units. Like, it is.
Dude, Jalen is built to bench press.
Like, we've seen just about every dude walking around here.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you Kansas was the most arrogant team that I think we saw here.
Yes, I would agree with that.
I think Houston was the most grounded team.
Mm-hmm.
Texas Tech is the most stout team. Like, they are, I'm not even kidding. They're going to crack skulls. Like, I would not want to trade across that front four, dude. I don't want to run into that. You have 6 guys returning on that defense, 31 sacks. Again, it's not accidental you're good in the red zone, because you don't get beat inside.
Yep.
Right? And you can cover. I think that D-line is just so good. Man, again, Tyler Shook, that's the question.
That's the guy.
That's the question. Is Tyler Shook good enough to carry a team to a conference championship? Because that's where this conversation begins and ends. If Tyler Shook is good enough, they're going to win, in my opinion. Because I think, even talking to, Jerran Bradley, I just, you get the idea of confidence and swagger. They don't lack for that. I think the biggest question is Tyler Shook. Can he carry? Is he good enough to carry Texas Tech to a championship?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And I think, obviously, his guys are going to back him up. But, again, not to be repetitive, but that's another guy hanging out with Blake Shapen at Baylor, right? Like these guys have to prove that they are good enough. And obviously, you know, you guys just heard Jalen talking about, hey, like, you know, Shook is a little bit different right now. You know, he's had to change some things and do some things, and we really like the direction he's going. But you know, we'll really, to finish that sentence, it's like we'll see what he can produce on the field.
All right, let's hear from UCF. Josh Salazar is a defensive end at UCF, and one of the things we've talked about is the confidence that you get when you talk to guys from UCF. Josh Salazar was absolutely no different. Let's talk about the UCF Knights right now. Let's talk about the Kingdom. See you guys all down here rocking the pins. You're all dressed to the nines. We've got the dunks on. Oh, and the socks. You've got the socks on. Well, now we're in the Big 12, so the sock game's got to come up. Is there really a difference for you guys? I mean, obviously who you're going against and whatnot, but is there really a difference for you guys jumping to the Big 12?
I don't see it as a big difference. I see it as we're going into a big conference. People expect us to like be the underdogs and not really do anything, especially it being our first year in the league. But I believe like we got a lot to prove. We got a lot of naysayers and people saying that we're not going to make it. AP poll saying that we're going to be 8th. So it's like, it is what it is. It's just us.
So you hear it.
I hear it. So it's like, just capitalize on everything. Let everybody have their opinion. Work hard, keep your head down, and expect like eventually we're gonna get into the season and people are gonna know.
Yep, Josh Salazar from UCF is our guest on the Monty Show, presented by BladeHQ.com. The defense has some questions. I don't think up front's the question. Do you have a secondary to back you guys up front? Because I think you're going to be rock solid up front, in my opinion, anyways. Do you feel like you have a secondary to back you guys up?
Of course, I have confidence in all the guys, especially us having like transfers come in as well. With Fred Davis coming in from Clemson and stuff like that. I feel like we got a lot of good guys. That's Jairo Wilson from ECU as well. These guys played real good at their old schools. They're gonna come in, contribute, and have a great year. Brandon Adams is gonna have a great year, especially with him coming back. I feel like our secondary is gonna be fine. No matter what, Coach Addy has a plan for us, and I know we're just gonna execute.
How hard is it to, I don't know, build chemistry, ingratiate? Like, you bring in a lot of people. You guys had a really big hit in the transfer portal this year. You did quite well.
Mm-hmm.
How hard is it to bring that in and build chemistry with those new guys?
I don't think it's hard at all, especially with me being a captain. I feel like every guy that's came in, I've always been just straight up real with them. Like, bro, you're going to come in, you're going to contribute, we're going to have a great year. And it's like I build like camaraderie with them. We play games, we talk, joke around. Like, guys, these are regular guys. Like, the guys just want to talk to you, want to get to know you. So I just felt like with me, it was easy. Like, getting to know them guys. Them guys are real cool now with me, and especially with their other teammates as well. Real comfortable.
Well, I think one of the things that UCF is known for with Gus is that you guys have a good, I don't know, is culture the right word, but you guys have a good atmosphere around the club. Like, it just seems like it is an easy place to fit in, as long as you're willing to fit in and do your part to run the program and do your job. It seems like you guys have an easy place to fit into.
Yeah, we do, especially with me being like a captain as well. I just feel like me going to guys and just letting them know that, bro, it's good. You're in a comfortable environment. You don't have to really worry about anybody. Like, just like being a complete like I ain't gonna say what I want to say, but you know,
right? Yeah.
Like, you don't want them guys to be like that. So it's just like you just want to go up to them and just let them know that you can be comfortable around these bunch of guys. Like, I just let them know that we're cool. We're not gonna be no different than your other teammates at your old school. So they know that, and they're gonna be fine. I feel like everybody is fine.
Well, and I think one of the other things is you guys win games. Like, this is not like, hey, we're gonna have to like massively talent up. Or if I feel like at UCF, you guys, you're 18-9 in the last 2 years. Gus Malzahn's a guy that obviously comes from big programs. He wins a lot. Like, the expectation is already in place. Like, I would have to assume for you, again, you're being a captain, I would have to assume for you, your expectations are you guys win every game you play.
Yeah, for sure. With me, it's just always letting the guys know that we're gonna just take it day by day. Stop trying to think that going into a big conference, it's big, but it's not crazy. Like, bro,
They're just dudes playing football, and you're just dudes playing football.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. We're just dudes playing football. Like, bro, we're good. Like, stop. Don't emphasize it, overthink it. We're gonna be fine.
Do guys do that? Do guys get nervous? Do guys overthink it?
I don't believe so. It's just like the way everybody talks about it. Everybody talks about it as if it's like the craziest thing in the world. With me, I just see it as, okay, we're in a bigger conference. That's nothing. Like,
the best part is people are like, well, they backed up moving vans and moved to the Big 12. It's not like you guys moved. You're still in Orlando, right? You're in the same place.
Exactly. We're still fine. We're fine. I just feel like everybody overthinks it, overemphasize. Oh, bigger conference. No, it is what it is. Like, we're gonna have a great year, take it day by day, and have a great season, and hopefully make it to the conference championship.
Yeah, and I think one of the more interesting parts about you guys is you really I think your team needs to run the ball offensively, because I think when you guys are on the field for the right number of reps, your defense, you guys are really effective. But I also think you're in an offense that's going to throw the football a lot. Like, it's going to be important that those guys convert, especially on those third downs. Like, how important is it that you guys get the right amount of reps on defense?
I feel like it's real important, especially for guys that's played a lot of plays. With us, I feel like coaches are trying to emphasize like rotation and trying to get other guys in and bring other guys out so we can all have efficient reps and not just have reps of just us being on the field. So coaches have put a lot of plans in place. The offense is gonna have a great year overall. I'm not even gonna think about that, because the offense, they're good. They're in the right spot. So I'm just excited to get the ball rolling.
UCF captain, Josh Salazar is our guest. Before I let you go, let's talk about, obviously I talked about the fit before. I'm a big shoe guy.
Yeah.
Right. I'm a Jordan guy.
You're
wearing Dunks, which is totally fine. I went through that phase of my childhood too. But like, are you a shoe guy? Like, what's your grind off the field?
My grind off the field, I'm not a crazy shoe guy. My grind off the field is I don't really have a grind. I just be me.
Yeah. So are you a Netflix guy? Are you a food guy? Are you a beach guy?
Food guy for sure. I eat a lot. I feel like I eat a lot. Netflix. I love Netflix.
Are you watching anything right now?
Nothing really. I love watching the Flash episodes. And then also they had the movie that we watched. I don't remember what it was called. It was a good movie. It was like, I'll give you like a rough draft of it. It was just like a girl, and her mother was lost for a couple of days, and she found out her mother was in like a whole bunch of other stuff, but it wasn't really what it seemed. It was just something crazy, but I love that movie because I was surprised by everything. Everything just flipped on me.
Yeah, and I think those are the best movies or the best shows. Like, when you know what's going to happen, that's all boring, man.
Yeah, it's
like,
boring. Yeah,
I love it. So you're next Netflix guy. All right, well, cool. Keep dressing well. Stay healthy. I really am excited for you guys. But thanks for stopping by, man.
Thank you so much.
You bet. There you go. Getting excited about UCF joining the Big 12, and I you know what? Josh Salazar was such a good dude. Another dude, by the way, that clearly knows how to lift weights because he is stacked. I think it is really UCF's in good shape. And again, I think this is one of those debates we had yesterday about the Big 12 versus the Pac-12. Here on the Monty Show live at AT&T Stadium in the old Tarrant County, Arlington, Texas.
Tarrant County.
Because God forbid we would say Dallas, which is right down the street. Anyway, the point is here at AT&T Stadium, I think one of the big debates has been Big 12 versus Pac-12. And I think last year the Pac-12 was really good. I think this year you look at some of the teams that are coming up through the Big 12, and I personally don't see any reason that KState can't be in a very strong position in November to repeat. Texas Tech. UCF, is middle of the table. I think anybody putting them 8, 9, 10 is crazy. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Like I right,
like now perform expectation in my opinion too.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, the only truly elite team in this conference, in my opinion, is Texas. But and I hope that I hope we get to talk to Oklahoma, but. We got about 45 minutes left here, but if we really look at Oklahoma, does anybody believe that you can flip that result from last year to this year. Man, that would be really difficult to do. And again, it's why I look at Oklahoma's schedule, and you're coming off of a 3-6 run through the conference last year. And I love Brent. I do. He's a defensive wizard. That roster has been absolutely upgraded defensively, and I'm not saying that Oklahoma is going to be West Virginia.
Right.
I think Neil Brown is in the twilight of his West Virginia days. But if you look at Brent Venables and you look at where this defense is, you can't give up 461 yards and 30 points a game and then turn around, restock in the portal, and think that number is going to exponentially go down. That to me, I mean, and there is a massive influx of talent in Norman.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But I have a lot of questions about, like, the offense. How is the Sooner offense going to help the Sooner defense? Right? If you have Dylan Gabriel and they're putting up 32 points a game, right? And he's throwing for 25 touchdowns, and Jaleel Farouk breaks out and becomes another number one wide receiver, and this offense is wide open. How many times are you going to go 3 and out with a wide open offense? Well, I think it's going to happen more than you need it to at Oklahoma.
Well, and I think, you look at a guy like Drake Stoops. This is someone who, obviously, not exactly huge numbers. He was here today talking to everybody. And I think, it's a guy like that who 5'10", 191. I mean, that's, a Wes Welker type body that needs to operate. And that's the guy you need to catch your 7-yard in route to get you that first down. And so it's a guy like him who maybe, isn't some 1,000-yard stud. But
I would agree.
You need him to make plays for you. And I think that's what Oklahoma didn't do good enough last year. They did not have elongated drives. You did not have a situation where you kept your defense off the field. And so your defense, gets you a stop here and there. And what do you reward them with? Well, you reward them with a 3 and out, or maybe a 6-7 play drive.
Well, and there's no question that Oklahoma's most difficult games are at home. You're on the road for Tulsa, Cincinnati. Then you're home really from September 23rd is the game at Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go back out on the road for a month until October 28th at Kansas, at Oklahoma State, and then West Virginia and at BYU. Your toughest games are TCU. Your toughest games are Texas. Your toughest games are Iowa State, SMU. Like, all of those difficult games, those games are at home, right? I mean, those games are at home. And I think when we talk about, how these games impact a season, there is no question in my mind that Oklahoma, the schedule breaks for Oklahoma. But I just don't believe that you can have that many people come in through your portal and build continuity. I don't buy it. I'm not a buyer on it. So when we look at the way this conference is built, man, I think the K-States, like Sonny Dykes at TCU, is a really interesting one, right? But I don't know how you repeat that success, and that's why again I'll just go to, in the Big 12, Texas and Texas Tech are every week is a huge game, because those guys are playing for championships every single week. And I think life is going to be difficult. I think Dana Holgerson is going to ruin some people's seasons. There's no doubt about that. I think Houston is going to be problematic.
Yeah.
Right? I think UCF going to Orlando is not going to be a pleasure cruise. Don't think about Disneyland, friends, because you are not going on vacation to Orlando.
Mm-mm.
You are going for a beating. And I that's why I love expansion in the Big 12. BYU, I think BYU is going to struggle to be bowl eligible. I think if Kalani Sitake wins 6 games, put a statue out front. Lavelle who? Because if they win 6 games, good Lord.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah,
Can you imagine that? Like, it really would be.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how all this plays out. Let's see what you guys have on your mind today. Matthew Farmer, OU is going to be good. Can't tell how good. They're going to be better.
I think it's different than good.
I think it's a stretch to say they're going to be good. I think they are going to be better.
Yeah.
I don't know that you can say that they are going to be good. Yeah. And I think there's also this conversation about Bedlam, right? And Mike Gundy went out of his way yesterday to wreck Bedlam and to straight up say that Bedlam is dead and that they're not going to be, that they're not going to be, partaking in Bedlam anymore. I'm trying to get this camera shot right. My bad. That Bedlam's dead.
Right.
Look, I love Mike. I think he's vitally important, as I've said for years now. I think Okie State, the Pokes, are really important in this conference. Stop talking about Bedlam being dead, because Bedlam's not dead. Mike Gundy, you're the one that thinks Bedlam's dead. You're it. You're the guy, because your athletic director and your president don't. Oklahoma's athletic director and president don't. And by the way, Brent Venables has talked about Bedlam not being dead. Mike Gundy, it's dead because you want it dead. It's dead. There's one of two scenarios playing out. You want to be a hard ass and you want to say that Bedlam's dead. Okay, I get it. You want to blame Oklahoma for leaving and going to the SEC. You'd have done the exact same thing. And don't tell me you wouldn't have, because you would have. You would have. But who's going to ask Mike Gundy that? Who? I would love to. And if we can get him on the show, hi, Jake. If we can get Mike Gundy on the show, we're going to ask him that. Gundy's the one that wants Bedlam dead. He's the one putting Bedlam to sleep, not Oklahoma going to the SEC, because Oklahoma had played that game. And the bottom line is, I don't think that Mike Gundy wants to play that game.
Yeah, well, I think that everything you say they're spot on. I mean, the thing with Mike is he's a guy that does what he wants to do. I mean, he's as I said yesterday, if you watched the show yesterday, he does 2 interviews on the entire radio row. They're both 40, 45 minutes long, and then he leaves. I mean,
well, look at what Sark did.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Steve Sarkisian. I don't think Steve Sarkisian ever had 2 feet completely inside of AT&T Stadium.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to, so they don't have to.
Yeah.
Sark did like 2 interviews, got up on the stage, and that was it.
Yeah.
Came out this morning and did ESPN and left.
Yep.
That was it. And listen, I get it. These guys don't want to talk. I totally understand it. But please, like Mike Gundy talking about Oklahoma, it's getting old. It's.
I mean, I think look, Oklahoma's obviously been the better program for the last foreseeable past, if you will. Like they've been better. They have, and that's not to say that Oklahoma State sucks, but ultimately Oklahoma's been the better team in that rivalry. And I think if I'm Gundy, I'm happy Oklahoma's going to the SEC, no doubt.
Yeah.
Like I'm not.
Well, Oklahoma's had the better of that. There's no question about that.
Gundy, you haven't been able to pull results in that rivalry. So yeah, he doesn't have a lot of incentive to keep playing it.
No, and again, I get it, man. I get it, and I'm not trying to be all Mr. Controversy guy, but it gets really old when we're sitting here trying to talk about, hey, the state of this conference, and Mike Gundy just wants to whine and complain about Oklahoma going to the SEC. Because in my opinion, I think it's played, man.
Yeah.
I think it's played. Our coverage of Big 12 football media days here on the Monty Show is presented by our friends at Blade HQ, bladehq.com. The best knives from the best knife makers at bladehq.com. They've got everything you need. And listen, I know that there are a lot of people who just collect different knives. They have every collectible you could need. Their selection is 15,000 units deep. 15,000 knives deep is what their inventory is. So they ship, they give you customer service, coast to coast, around the globe. BladeHQ.com is your home for the best knives from the best knife makers. And one of the things that's super cool about BladeHQ.com is that they built their own website. And I don't just mean they had Jimmy in the graphics department put up their own graphics. The platform, the software, the process, the execution, the motor, the entire website built in-house by BladeHQ.com to offer the consumer, that's you, a better, easier experience that puts the product in your hand sooner. So if you're a hunter or an outdoorsman and you need utility knives, they've got that for you. You need a hunting knife, a fishing knife, they've got that for you. Do you need clothing, lanterns, batons, lamps? They've got all of that for you. All of your knives, all of your outdoor gears. There's only one place to go. It's bladehq.com on the Monty Show, live in Arlington at AT&T Stadium for Big 12 football media days. What do you think, Jake? I think we've talked a lot about Baylor. And I think, frankly, in my opinion, I think Blake Shapen was one of the better conversations we had. It's on the channel, but I want to bring it back because I know that we've talked a lot about quarterbacks in this league.
Yeah.
But let's bring you the conversation we had with Baylor QB Blake Shapen yesterday right here at AT&T Stadium, thanks to our friends at BladeHQ.com. Football Media Days presented by BladeHQ.com. BladeHQ.com, the best knives made by the best knife makers. As Coach Leipold goes by, Blake Shapen joins us. So anybody talking about you lately? Anybody, like it seems like you are a huge conversation point for Baylor fans.
Yeah, I don't really know much. I don't listen to too much, but yeah, I mean, just I'm here, so I don't know how to answer it.
Do you you're an interesting cat though, because obviously with the redshirt year, you're 22. You're not the 19-year-old kid that's trying to find his way.
Right.
I think you're somebody that brings leadership. You bring maturity. What is in your opinion, from your perspective, what is your value to Baylor football?
I think, like you said, I have a little bit of experience under my belt. I've been in, now a good bit of college football games and played in them and started in them. So, I think I know what it's like to play in big time, places and things like that. And so, just be able to help the guys around me, be able to, try to tell them what it's like and different experiences that they might experience if they're a young guy. And so just to be able to be there as a teammate for these guys and to wear my experience off a little bit on those guys has definitely been a thing. So
last year clearly was not the year that you guys as a program wanted, but what do you take from that? What did you learn last year? What were the growth opportunities last year?
I'd say just unifying as a team. I think last year, our culture probably wasn't exactly where we wanted it. And so now just being able to step that part of our game up as a team has been a big emphasis in the offseason. So being able to hold guys to higher standards, being able to be the guy that steps up and say, hey, that we need to do this better. And I think that's something that not only have I grown in, but a lot of my other teammates have done the same thing. And I think everybody wants the same thing. They have the same goal, and we're all aligned, and that's how it should be. And I think we might have missed that a little bit last year. So it's been good. So
not insignificant though. Like that, when you talk about culture, and I know it's a word that everybody throws out, but when you talk about culture and relationships and chemistry, that stuff really matters. And you guys, especially on your offensive line, you bring in Clark and Campbell Barrington from BYU, who we know very well. You have a guy in Grimes that obviously he's somebody that knows how to develop guys. He is an offensive line guy. Like, do you feel like your guys up front, is there continuity? Is there chemistry up there?
Yeah, there is. Every day when I walk in for breakfast, those guys are sitting together. I mean, there's not a time that I'm walking around the facility that, there's not a group of 2 or 3 of them together. And so I see that the relationships they're building with each other, and I see how hard they work each and every day. And it's pretty amazing to watch because, Clark and Campbell, they've added a huge piece to the offensive line and experience. And for Clark to be able to come in and lead and like I said earlier, having experience and things like that has been huge, but not also just on the field, but off the field, being able to help these guys each and every day to achieve the goals that they want to achieve. On the field as a quarterback, how does that impact you? It gives me confidence knowing that those guys up front, they know what's going on and things like that. And Clark, like I said, brings that piece and I'm excited to see what they can do. It's been fun, growing with them, going to workouts every day with them. Just seeing how they move is pretty awesome, and I'm excited to see what we can do this year. Do you think much about the defense? Because that's what you have a lot of change on defense. I don't think anybody denies that. Right. As a quarterback, how do you compartmentalize that? How do you turn that off and just worry about what you need to worry about? At the end of the day, we're a team, so we're all worried about each other. And at the end of the day, when we go on the field, we all have to worry about our jobs. But when we're going through workouts and things like that, we can help that. Offensive guys can help defensive guys and hold them to a higher standard and things like that. But when we get on the field, it's a different story. And like you said, so for us to be able to just focus on what we got to do individually on each side of the ball means everything. And yeah, we're new, but we're working hard each and every day. And are you, as we visit with Blake Shapen from Baylor on the Monty Show, thanks to our friends at BladeHQ.com, how much ceiling do you have left? Because you're a guy who when I look at your tape, I see a guy who's there's a lot more yards there. Like I view you as a 300 yards a game every week. Like I think that's there. Do you think that's there? And does your offense give you the opportunity to grow into that guy? Yeah, I definitely think so. Coach Grimes, he's very, very smart. He knows a lot about football. He knows how to put us in good situations to go into the game and be ready to execute. So I definitely feel like, yes, I have that in the tank, and I feel like we have the coaches to make that happen too. And so, my job is to go each and every week as a mindset to just be the best that I can be. And it's not about throwing for 300 yards a game for me. It's about winning football games, and that's what I'm here to do.
Look at you. That's a great answer.
Yes,
and before I let you go, TJ Franklin and Gabe Hall are massive human beings.
Yeah, they are.
Speaking about talking about your defense, I obviously those two guys are two guys that jump off the sheet. But when you look at them and you look at the tests that they give to your offensive line, I mean,
yeah,
those are two pretty good defensive ends right there.
Oh, no doubt. When you have those two guys on your football team, it's pretty special. It's pretty awesome to watch them too. They give our O-line, a run for the money every day, and they show up each and every day and test them each and every day. And so, it's only going to help us be better as a unit, as a team. And, our O-line guys look at it as a challenge too, facing those guys, and they do a good job of handling them in practice, but they also do a good job on the defensive side of the ball too. So be able to have two guys like that, just makes us better as a whole.
So are you more of a shoe guy or a sock guy? Because your sock game's pretty strong, dude.
I actually just walked in the other day and there was only a couple pairs on the rack. So I was like, you know what? I'll go with the baby blue and the pink pig. So that's what I did.
That's awesome. Blake, nice to meet you, man.
Yes,
I appreciate
sir.
you
Good to
coming
meet
by.
you too. Yes,
There
sir.
you go. Stay healthy. Blake Shapen, Baylor football quarterback. And again, another really good conversation. Like, if you do not understand the importance of an offensive line to a quarterback, I think what he talked about, walking in every day for breakfast and seeing 2 or 3 of his offensive linemen having breakfast together, walking around the facility. Well, there you go. Blake Shapen, Baylor quarterback. I think you got to love that guy. I'm a fan. And just from what everybody's been talking about his improvement, he has a certain moxie about him. And the thing that I really enjoyed about Blake Shapen was he took accountability for his performance. And I think when you're willing to take accountability and when you're willing to, talk about the mistakes or you're willing to talk about the inequities in your game, I think that helps you grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, Blake understanding that Baylor needs to be better this year, and because he plays quarterback, that's a lot of that falls on him. I mean, again, if they can be, it's like we're talking to wide receiver from Texas Tech, who I'm blanking on, who's
Gerard Bradley,
Jaron Bradley,
yes.
Yeah. Talking about how they want to put up 50-piece burgers,
and Jaron was pretty funny about that.
Yeah,
I thought that was hysterical.
I think that Blake Shapen and Baylor could use some of that ideology, could use some.
They need that belief system.
Yeah, that like, hey, like we're, that's going to be our goal. We want to come out and put up 50 every game, and hey, if 35 is what we get, that's what we get. But 50 is the goal, because if you score 50 points in a college football game, I mean, you got a much better chance of winning that football game.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I think the funny part is, like, offense, defense, it doesn't matter. The guys at Texas Tech, they don't believe it. They just know it, right? They know it. I mean, much like I know that Bucked Up is the official energy provider of the Monty Show, buckedup.com. Make sure you use the promo code Monty20 to get 20% off your purchase at buckedup.com. And I tell you that Bucked Up has changed my life, you guys. And I've told you that, hey, we're working really hard. We're losing weight. We've almost lost 40 pounds. And Bucked Up's a huge part of that, whether it's Bucked Up Miami energy drink with 0 sugar, but really good, long-lasting, smooth energy. Buckshot during golf, like the protein powders, the collagen peptides, the Buck bars. Bucked Up has a product that works for you no matter what you're trying to accomplish. You lose weight. Maybe you're just trying to lean out and you're trying to burn fat. Like all of the things that you need, all of the ingredients and the supplements you need of the highest quality at Bucked Up. That's what I love about those guys. And it's why we drink Buckshot on the show every day. It's why I tell you every day, Bucked Up Miami energy drink, the best flavor in the business. But more and more as I have dialed in my nutrition and my supplements, things like the Bucked Up protein powder, their whey protein isolate is the best that I've ever seen. And whether you put that in a Buck bar, whether you put that in a protein shake, it doesn't matter. It works because they use the best ingredients for the best products. Buckedup.com. Use the promo code Monty20. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. All right, real quick, I want to talk about this situation with ESPN because there is news from Bob Iger today that a lot of people are asking us about on Twitter. And one of the talking points is that Disney is going to sell ESPN, which is exactly the opposite of what Bob Iger said today. What Bob Iger said today was that Disney is looking for an equity partner in ESPN, which means they're looking for somebody to make an investment so that they can hang on to ESPN, but they would sell ABC and their other legacy channels, which, by the way, is a big deal. That is a big, big deal. But as we've talked about on this show for a long time, I do not believe it makes any business sense whatsoever for ESPN to be spun off by Disney, Jake. I just think ESPN makes the company too much money.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is like everyone wants to immediately go to, oh, ESPN sucks, and they're having to lay people off, and nobody watches ESPN, and that's just, the numbers don't bear that out, and anyone telling you that is just hating on ESPN. It's much more of a situation where Disney is just not profitable, and there's really no way around that. And obviously Disney owns ESPN, and because Disney's not profitable, Disney's strategy, instead of cutting at Disney, instead of just going direct to the source, what Disney's tried to do here is they've tried to say, okay, we're going to cut fat from ESPN as much as possible to put a Band-Aid on the bleeding that we're doing at Disney.
Right.
And I think that's the damn shame in this whole thing, because I think, love it or hate it, ESPN is an absolute powerhouse. And I think ESPN is certainly what I grew up on. I mean, it's by far my favorite sports network, whether it's live sports or otherwise. Like, I love that. And I think, the more I hear equity partners and all this nonsense, like, it just screams of, hey, ESPN's going to lose control in a sense, and the branding is going to change. And again, it's like this whole PIF golf thing, right? Like, once you bring in, external money, whether that's overseas or domestic, you never know how that's going to change your presentation and your feel and how you deliver the product. So to me, that's the shame in it, is like, I think once you start rolling out terminology like equity partner, that might as well just say, hey, change in branding partner, because that's ultimately what happens. And to me, the final point on that is, once you start changing your branding, then I think the brand is at risk of going downhill, which is never a good thing either.
Yeah, I think ESPN is one of the best brands in the entertainment business. It's worth billions of dollars. I have a hard time believing that Disney spins that off, because Disney, I think, has a very clear view, and Bob Iger's talked about the fact that the future is streaming, and ESPN is making them hundreds of millions of dollars a quarter. And I think they're making $431 million at last count per quarter. They're making $1.2 billion a year last year in streaming. Like, that's just ESPN. Like, it doesn't make sense. And I think that's why you'll see Disney will sell off a 25% piece, a 49.9% piece to somebody that can come in and inject cash or capital or whatever their need is, because they need that capital injection for other parts of the business. So ESPN, again, I think is fine. It's just when you get that capital investment, Disney needs to put that into their movie making and entertainment business.
Absolutely.
Their theme park business, it is absolutely zapping them of profit right now. It's a tough way to make your living.
Yeah.
So I don't believe for a second that ESPN is going to be sold off by Disney. I do not. I think we've talked about this, bringing in other partners to strengthen weakening areas of the business is not surprising at all.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, it's this whole concept in business of, hey, like we need to retain control while also bringing in capital. And I think, again, it's liquidation. It's just, you can't operate if your money is not, regularly available to you. So for me, I just look at it and I say, hey, that's what this is. That's the play. You have to get more liquid so you can operate at a higher level and, find ways to continue to dominate the sports landscape, because that's what they do, whether you like it or not. ESPN dominates the sports landscape, and you can sit here and talk about Fox, and Brett Yormark can wax poetic up there on the stage, and I love Brett. I think he's a phenomenal commissioner, but the fact is ESPN runs this town in sports. And,
yes, it does.
And Fox, no shade. Fox NFL coverage by Fox is outstanding. I love what they do. Their college football coverage is also outstanding, which you understand.
Their live sports is
their
very
live
good.
Sports is really good, but their spoken word is not good. Their filler programming is not good, and that's where I think ESPN takes the cake. Is like, yeah, their talking head shows aren't great, but they're at least passable.
They're serviceable.
Yeah, like any sports fan can watch Get Up with Greeny. Like that works. It's not Undisputed or any of these garbage talk shows.
Yeah, and I again go to this situation with Undisputed, and I say to myself, like, yeah, Pat McAfee last night on the ESPYs mocking Skip Bayless. Like, Fox outside of live programming, their sports is embarrassing. Their radio network's not good. It has no reach. Nobody's watching their talking head shows on FS1. Like, it's rough, man. But Big 12 football, NFL, Major League Baseball, golf, like, I have no problem with what they do in live programming. And I think what you see is that ESPN has shifted away from controversy and politics in its talking head shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it continues to win. And CBS HQ and, CBS Sports Network, and they can all try to compete, but at this point, they're not going to compete.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot compete with, you just cannot compete with what ESPN does.
Yeah.
I think is ultimately the difference maker, because you don't have a way to compete with the live sports programming. They have all the best sports, the NHL, the NBA, college football across the board.
Well, and the app experience. I mean, let's be honest. Like, Fox's app is garbage. Like, ESPN's app is outstanding.
Yeah, that in my opinion is exactly right. And when you've got the biggest of the best, you've got the SEC in football, you've got the NFL, you've got Monday Night Football, you've got Major League Baseball, you've got, you have everything. You have the Masters, you have Wimbledon, the U.S. Open, like, you have it all at ESPN.
Yeah.
So that until that changes, you're going to have quite a bit of problems competing with ESPN. But this equity injection, again, is not about ESPN. It's about other parts of the Disney business. And I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it makes a lot of sense. And let's be honest, ESPN is college football.
Yeah, well, and I think the only question is going to be, what is the fate of ESPN through this whole thing? Like I was saying, like, again, if it's 49.9%, that's great that Bob Iger still retains control. But again, now you have a control, not a.
But notice he said equity partner.
Yeah, I mean, they're not trying to sell the business off. They're not trying to say, hey, dude, come in and take over ESPN.
Yes.
What they need is cash flow. That's what they need. They need someone to come in, give them a bunch of cash and trade for an equity piece. And then, a year, 3 years from now, they'll sell that piece back, and the dude who invested in it will profit on it. And that ultimately is business. And some businesses need that sometimes. I mean, that's just how things are done. So to me, everyone can blow this out of proportion and say that ESPN's dying, and go ahead, die on that hill. But I don't have any doubt that the network that has the college football playoff, and has a number of marquee sporting events, and basically just does a proper job of everything, is dying. It's more of business ops and trying to get yourself in a healthier place financially moving forward.
Yep, totally agree. Also agree, when you talk about a healthier place moving forward, you've got to add calzones to the mix.
At Papa Murphy's, we do more than just pizza. We do meatballs and marinara.
Papa Murphy's does meatballs?
Oh, I think you mean I do the meatballs and marinara?
And how do you do it, Dad?
How do I do it? How do I do it?
Well, we do it with savory ground beef
covered in tangy marinara. That's how, honey.
At Papa Murphy's, we make great pizza.
And don't forget the meatballs.
Order now at papamurphys.com.
Papa Murphy's Pizza, the official pizza of the Monty Show. Make sure you download the Papa Murphy's app and use the promo code Monty25. You get 25% off your purchase of $25 or more at Papa Murphy's Pizza. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show, which as always is presented by The Advocates, theadvocates.com. And again, I ask you guys, spend 5 minutes, get to theadvocates.com and ask them how you can help them send homeless kids back to school. They really are working hard with the people at The Road Home, which is one of the best homeless organizations in the country. There's a lot of school-age kids that are homeless and don't have the basic necessities, whether that's shoes, socks, clothes, notebooks, pencils, pens, the things that we all take for granted. those are heavily in need across this country with kids who are living in cars or in parks that are simply homeless. The Road Home is a great organization. And our friends at the Advocates, who I tell you every day on this show, they are community-based. They are working really hard to help send homeless kids to school with the equipment and the confidence and the ability to learn that they need. Get to theadvocates.com, UtahAdvocates.com. They have a little chat feature on their website where, by the way, if you've been in an accident, you got hurt at work today, you can talk to some of the best attorneys in the business, but you can also chat with them and say, hey, trying to help you guys send homeless kids back to school. And if it's $5, $1, $1 million, give what you can give, because it is a great cause. The Advocates care about our community, and we're asking you to reach out to the Advocates and help them send kids back to school. Let's wrap up our coverage of Big 12 Football Media Days live in Arlington at AT&T Stadium. Some of the bigger talking points, obviously, coming out of the conference. Brett Yormark yesterday talked about, the conference being open for business, and I think absolutely this conference for the last year has been open for business, and I think the money that's been run through this conference, whether that's Rucker Park in a couple of weeks here, or Mexico, or the commercial division, or Kansas City announcing yesterday a 6-year contract extension,
right?
Or excuse me, I guess that would have been an 8-year contract extension with AT&T Stadium here in Arlington for the Big 12 championship game. You know that they're doing Big 12 NFL Pro Day here at Jerry World. Like, this is the home of the Big 12. Dallas, Texas is the home of the Big 12 conference. I think, again, this conference owns the state of Texas, and I think you're seeing a real commitment from the conference to the state of Texas and the city of Dallas, Jake, and I think it's exactly the right play.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you could go wrong partnering with the Dallas Cowboys and the city of Dallas and city of Arlington. I know. Yeah, I don't know how you could go wrong with that. And I think the Big 12, my big takeaway from these pro days, or media days rather, is the Big 12 is in a really great place, and they're moving forward. I mean, again, I know we talk about the Big 12 almost every day on the showroom, but I just think there's this sense of forward progression, a lot of momentum. Obviously different programs are at different places in their winning cycle, but as they are in every conference. But I just think overall, you look at the Big 12, and it's just run really well. And even if you're a bad team in the Big 12, you're gonna make money. You're gonna progress. And again, I think whether it's UCF or BYU or even Texas, every team in this conference has expectations of what they should get done this year, and that's what makes this conference great. I think expectations are difficult in the Pac-12 right now because you don't know where the conference is going to be. You don't know what you're trying to do right now as a program. I mean, obviously every program's trying to win games, but I just don't think that when, like for the Big 12, every team is on a mission. Like whether you're these new additions and you want to make a splash, or whether you're leaving the conference, you're on a mission to prove a point here. And in the Pac-12, I just don't think you have that direction. And I will leave these media days from AT&T Stadium feeling like, hey, the Big 12 is in a really good place right now and full steam ahead.
Do you buy that we get a Pac-12 media deal before Pac-12 media days?
No, I think they will drag that thing out as long as they can till the death. And I think they will take as long as they need to get what they want. And I don't know that they ever get what they want. And so my point is, I think they will drag it out as long as they can until the final hour when it's just they're not going to get it done.
Yeah, we'll see. I really hope that that's not the I hope that's not the case. I hope it's done as soon as we can. Big shout out to our guys at BladeHQ.com. You guys, if you love the coverage and you love the program, and I know you do, because this is the best, worst show ever.
Right.
Get to BladeHQ.com. Tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. Even if you don't spend any of your bread, which we hope you do, because they have the best knives from the best knife makers, the best outdoor equipment. If you're a hunter, a fisherman, if you're just somebody that collects knives, they have over 15,000 different knives at any one time for you to choose from. They get it to your front door quick because they have the best website in the business, because they built it themselves entirely in-house at BladeHQ.com. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. Jake, Really well done.
You as well, sir.
Thanks to Jake for chasing all of our guests down. All of our guests will be cut and uploaded. So if you missed any of our interviews, absolutely make sure you get to our YouTube page, hit subscribe on YouTube, hit the bell, because every time we upload an interview, you'll get a notification of it. Until Monday.
Yeah, no show tomorrow, travel day tomorrow.
Yep, until Monday. Back in the old Jota.
In the studio.
Say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.